Hello, and welcome to The Fool and the Philosopher.
The Philosopher and The Fool. So, Taliesin.
Oh yeah, the bard.
Yeah, Taliesin the Bard.
You were looking him up for?
Oh, I looked him up a tiny bit just to, get the story right. Because, this was a while ago, because I was traveling, so I made it ahead of time.
Yeah.
And only one image of the generations I had turned out the way I wanted it. What's funny is the image looks like Taliesin, however, it's actually his dad standing by the river, and I put the basket in there. But apparently a lot of people were interested in that.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
I guess all the Welsh, maybe?
No, there are a lot of people clicked on that video and actually watched it through, because sometimes they clicked on, but this one had a lot of watch through and listen to.
I made a video on, Here's My Magic, Whites versus Whites. Who would, what happens if you attack a single white with a single white?
Yeah.
And then you click auto combat.
Yeah.
And it kind of breaks the game. But that video, it starts with about 3 seconds of me loading into the custom map I made to test it. And viewer retention, I lost 90% of people in the first 3 seconds.
Yep.
Because there wasn't the thing going on. Yeah. So thankfully, YouTube has this video editing tool, so I just moved over the start time. Probably too late for the initial impression, but moved it over.
Yeah.
But it's amazing how fast you can lose people.
Oh yeah, no, my videos lose them all the time.
I don't blame them either. It's like, there's too many videos.
Oh yeah.
You can't be expected to give them all, I was thinking about slow-paced books, movies, everything. Or a podcast, let's say, where they have these long introspective pauses where they think and they're not talking all the time. Or you're watching a Let's Play and the guy isn't talking all the time. Sometimes you just watch him think for a moment before he makes his next move in the game. And you can't do that. You have to. People say it's a short attention span, but I don't think that's it. I think it is actually.
There's a attention economy.
Yeah, but it's also you have to, in order to have those spots, you need your audience to trust you.
Yeah.
And they have no reason to trust you. And so people talk about when I was a kid, I had 3 games and I liked them all. What really got me, the anime Zach Bell? It's like this guy, he has this magic book, and it controls a little puppet with creepy puppet lines on his mouth. It's like a little talking dummy thing. But yeah, he controls this little lightning puppet with his magic book.
Not familiar with it.
Okay. I saw about 3 minutes of this anime once when I was 8.
Yeah.
And the only reason I was able to find it, and I'm pretty sure I got the right anime, was because I was using ChatGPT. And I was saying, okay, I remember this anime. I remember 2 details. Yeah. Can you help me find it? And so I was going through a bunch of anime, and I think I found it. But I remember when I was a kid and I watched it, I was like, this thing is the coolest thing ever. This is everything I want from a cartoon. Why aren't more cartoons like this? And I looked it up, and it's like a normal anime where they just sit there and they talk too much, and it's slow, and it had me thinking of the Dresden Files. You know how in later books vampires are a bigger threat because you can't throw a pocket full of sunshine at them? Yeah. And he says, why don't you just fold more sunshine into your handkerchief? And he says, well, to do that you have to be truly happy.
Yeah.
I think anime might be the same. I think except it's not quite just, but with anime you have to be truly happy in order to enjoy it. But I think there's there's only one show on TV. If it's creative, it doesn't matter how slow it is or how poorly written or how poorly paced. If it's creative, it's better than everything else. And I think that's where anime really might shine, is in I have 3 games and 3 movies, and one of them's an anime, and it's the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
But I think a service like Crunchyroll is almost antithetical to anime itself, because then you have unlimited anime, and that way you need to actually your time needs to be worth of something, and suddenly it's all garbage, because it is garbage in the first place. But garbage doesn't matter if you're willing to give it a chance. So maybe instead you shouldn't worry about watching the best and just accept garbage, but languish in it. I don't know. Anyways, back to Tales.
I just wanted to note that video had a lot of reception.
Yeah, that's actually
it has a bunch of comments and I haven't responded to them.
Oh yeah, I should check those out as well. But as an addendum to that, the king with Merlin as a kid, I looked up the tale. I couldn't find the tale I remember, but I found a few variants. And in most of them, the king is King Vortigern. And he is not King Arthur's dad, obviously. He's not King Arthur. He is Constance, who was King Arthur's grandfather. He's his friend.
Oh, okay.
and he is the king of Wales.
Okay.
And so when he saw the serpents fighting, the red and the white serpent fighting, that red serpent is the dragon of Wales.
Ah.
And Merlin's point with that fight was that the white serpent is bigger and stronger, but the red serpent can prevail with its ferocity. And that is, Wales will prevail over the invading Saxons.
Ah.
But they are losing right now. And so he was the first king of Wales. And he was like we are our own country. And so it made me wonder if because I always talk about how, the idea that Britain has never been conquered or colonized is ridiculous. They've been colonized by everyone. But I wonder if Wales would be some of the original people that the Saxons didn't manage to conquer until the Brits conquered them, obviously. But there's still that people. Like the Picts in the north, they're gone. They were. Yes. I don't know who took them out. I don't know if it was the Romans or the Vikings. But
well, a lot of the Irish are still Irish.
Yeah, I guess the Irish would still remain as well. And obviously the Scots are descendants of the whatever Celtic groups, like the Picts and whatnot. But they have a lot of Viking influence now.
Yeah.
But
that's why they have the red hair.
But I don't know. Well, that might be their Celtic heritage as well, because their first queen, well, it's the Irish's first queen in the Irish myths, but I think the Scottish also claim her.
Yes.
Scotia, which I think the Scots have a better claim to, just based on name. I don't know. But she was red-haired. So their founder was red-haired, so it doesn't have to be the...
It might have been both of them then.
Yeah. And I think the Vikings, well, they were fair-haired was what the Byzantines said. They called them the fair-haired people.
Yeah. So the Byzantines...
Yeah.
One place I went to was the Byzantine Empire, or what's left of it.
You went to Turkey?
Yeah, I went to Turkey. So Istanbul, Constantinople.
Yeah.
Constantinople is tiny compared to Istanbul, because you can actually figure out how big it was, because the wall is still there. It's crumbling, there's buildings being built into it, it looks horrible, but it's tiny. Istanbul is huge. It has 15 million people in it.
Did you go to the east wall, like the one that was holding back the Ottomans?
We were on the coast. So
yes.
The peninsula.
Isn't it on both sides? Like it's on both sides of the bay, isn't it?
Yeah. We were on the side that was holding them. So they conquered one side and went across.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the wall was on the eastern side of Constantinople, though. I think right. So the Turks conquered that, got over the wall, and then they could cross the bay. And
there's another wall around the city.
Right. So you were on the European side.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we were on the European side with the 3-layered wall. But
that's not the wall the Ottomans took down. They took down the wall on the opposite side.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
They took down both walls. Both walls were really strong. The city was sieged for long enough that the Ottomans built forts on both sides of the strait to stop aid from coming to them.
How'd they... Well, I guess you just sneak across, because
No, they conquered it.
Well, no, I'm just thinking, the Byzantines had the strongest navy on Earth, didn't they? I don't know how they got across. Well, I guess they didn't actually have a strong navy, they had a dangerous navy.
The Byzantines, kind of just sat inside the city and didn't fight back.
I told you that story about how the Vikings attacked Constantinople, right? And they sent 20,000... they sent 2,000 ships to attack Constantinople. And because they couldn't attack the walls, obviously. And the Byzantines destroyed their entire navy with 10 ships.
With the Greek fire?
Yeah.
They might have lost Greek fire by the time the Ottomans took it over. Because it was lost.
Or maybe they had 200 ships. Anyways.
So one of the ridiculous things about the siege of Constantinople is the day that was taken. So the city has really good walls. And also the bay had this massive chain to defend it.
But then Altair took it down or something.
No.
Ezio, was it?
So what the Ottomans actually did, they picked up their boats and portaged them around it and then put them back into the bay.
Oh, wow.
Overnight.
Like warship type.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so they portaged their navy into the bay to get around the chain. And then attacked it to distract them so they could take down the walls. And when they took down the walls, the guy who took them down, his nickname's Conqueror, he went into the city and said, "Everything in the city belongs to me."
Was that Suleiman the Magnificent?
No, that was his son later on. Or his grandson, I can't remember. But this guy, basically, he went in there, "Everything belongs to me." And why he did that is so the city wouldn't get pillaged. Because you don't want to damage the Sultan's stuff. And then he went to Hagia Sophia and said, "Have this ready to be a mosque for morning prayers tomorrow."
Wow.
And so they went up, took the cross off the top, put the star on it, and they held the prayers in.
Rotated all the rugs.
They did that a little later. Yeah, it is a weird building.
Do they still have everything off center? And
yes.
Yeah,
they do. So what's really weird, though, besides off center, is to get in, you go inside and you go up around the gallery. You don't actually go into the mosque bit. You go into the cathedral part. And so when the building was taken, the Sultan wasn't an idiot. He was actually a very smart man. He was quite young. He conquered a lot of land. He took over one of the most powerful cities in the world. And so he said, all right, this building, we know it belongs to the patriarchy. Because the Doge came. Well, let's go back in history a bit.
Yeah, okay.
Let's go back. So
I'm pretty sure patriarchy was the wrong word, though, right?
No, it is the right word.
Okay, so...
But we'll go back, okay?
You heard the Doge died recently?
Oh.
The sheep.
Oh, yeah, the sheep. Yeah. So, yeah, let's go back.
Okay.
So, Constantinople.
Yeah.
The Hagia Sophia, there's been 3 of them.
Yeah, okay.
And it means wisdom of God. It's been burnt down twice, and each time got rebuilt afterwards. So Justinian is in Constantinople, the Eastern Roman Empire. They don't consider themselves Byzantines. They call themselves Romans. Byzantine is a term that we use.
Yeah.
So he's Emperor of Rome, and one of the worst riots ever happens in Rome, and they burn down the Hagia Sophia. And he's like, all right, screw this. The people here are lunatics. I'm leaving. His wife shows up, Justinian. No, sorry, he's Justinian. Sophia, or whatever her name is.
I can't remember her name.
Isabella.
Okay. Wasn't it... anyways, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Anyway, his wife shows up.
The poisoner.
Yeah. Wearing purple.
Yeah.
And she says, what are you? Some, like...
The only female ruler of Rome.
What are you? Some vagabond? We're the emperor and empress of Rome. And so she's wearing, like, royal purple.
Yeah.
And it's like, you can leave, but I'm not. I'm going to continue to rule here. So Justinian's like, okay, we're going to stay here, but we have to deal with these rioters. So his plan... there's a hippodrome right in the center of the city. And
which is a horse racing track.
Yeah, right near where the temples are, actually. It has an Egyptian column in it that's still there today that you can go and look at.
It's like, you know, you go to church, and then after church you stop by the
the
racetrack.
It is literally less than a 5-minute walk. Literally, less than a 5-minute walk.
Definitely had a different view on gambling.
Yeah, so he invited all the rioters and protesters to the hippodrome.
Yeah.
And he said, all right, stand in here, and I will hear demands. So they all went in there.
I think a few people
all
have done
of them
that.
died.
Yeah.
And so it's like, there's so many tourists in this one area. And after you learn that history, because I went to a museum, so over 80,000 people or 60,000 or something people were slaughtered here. It was ridiculous.
Wasn't it Pol Pot who did that, where he said, like, if you have any complaints with my government, just come here and let me know, and we'll deal with it.
Yeah, no, it's kind of a classic thing.
Yeah.
Anyways, so the Hagia Sophia needed to be rebuilt. So Justinian said, let's rebuild it. And they did it in a very, very short period of time. And they did that by deconstructing all the Greek temples in the area.
And just reusing
and repurposing their marble. So when you go in there, a lot of the bits and bobs and like columns inside it are way older than the building itself. And so it was built absurdly fast. And it was an amazing building. It had mosaics all over it. It had a room for Justinian and his wife to be in. Theodora.
Yeah.
Yeah, it had a room for Justinian and Theodora to be in to greet their guests. While they were building it, they had an entry for horses to come in to pull the carts that's still there. So to get up the staircase into the upper balcony, you can actually still take horses up it if you wanted to. It's designed so horses can go up. Anyway, so it's this amazing building. There's tons of gold, tons of really nice stuff. However, years and years past, Constantinople sort of like the seat of power still, but it's waning. And so there is Catholics...
Did an umbrella.
With... Umbrella?
Yeah, it's waning.
Oh, okay. Right, so there are Catholics who have the Pope in charge, but the Romans actually weren't under the Pope. They were under the patriarchs. And these are like individual guys in, I can't remember the exact like different sect name, but they're in charge.
The Orthodox
Church.
Church,
Orthodox
probably.
Church, is in charge of Constantinople.
The Russians were defending...
Yeah, the Russians liked Constantinople.
Yeah. Like the Russians were fighting against the Turks as well, weren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's much later history to
Right.
get into.
Okay.
But so they're in charge, and basically some crusade stuff happens, and the Constantinople pisses off the Doge of Venice by blinding him.
Yeah.
And so, as revenge, he unleashes a bunch of crusaders into Constantinople. The crusaders also actually hadn't been paid. They'd promised to be paid, and they weren't. And Constantinople is going to pay them. So, there's a pissed guy who sends them there, and it's a bunch of pissed guys go in, and they tear the place apart. They take a bunch of statues. Like, there used to be these 3 horse head statues. Those are now in Venice. They were one of the main attractions of the Hagia Sophia. They're now in Venice. A lot of the gold that was in Hagia Sophia is in Venice.
A lot of the marbles in Venice.
Yeah, a lot of the marbles in Venice. And basically the place was ransacked besides like the mosaics and some of the really symbolic things. And then the Doge walked in there and said, "This belongs to me now." And he closed it. So, because he wasn't Orthodox. He was Catholic.
He closed the Hagia Sophia, or he closed the city?
He closed the Hagia Sophia.
Okay.
So people didn't worship it anymore. And like the few people went in, but it was basically like this mothballed building. So anyways, there's this old mothballed building, still very beautiful, but not quite as beautiful it was. And it's no longer really used. Then the city gets attacked by the Ottomans take it, and it gets turned into a mosque. So Muslims don't like pictures of humans in their art, in their temples to worship. And they don't really like reliefs and all those symbolism things. But this guy said, all right, this is a temple of the Orthodox Christians. There's a lot of them still in the city. So you guys can come and worship here, because our main worship is on Friday and yours is on Sunday. So we can both worship in here, and I'm just going to take curtains and I'm going to cover everything up. And he actually went a step further, and he said to the Jewish people there, so, all right, now you guys haven't been treated all that nicely by the Christians who are here. So you guys can also come to the Hagia Sophia, and you can worship here.
Oh, nice guy.
Yeah, that didn't last very long. And he only did that to get their support. Other people in the land around Anatolia, the other Jews in the land of Anatolia, were not treated nicely by him. There's basically only the people in the city. Anyways, so time progresses, and it's like this mega mosque, basically, and it was the capital was moved there for the Ottoman Empire. They absolutely loved the city. And they started adding to the Hagia Sophia, so they added new little buildings, they added libraries. They realized it was collapsing at one point, so they added flying buttresses to the outside so it wouldn't fall apart. It's like one of the first uses of flying buttresses in history is the ones they made.
Oh.
And so they just kept working on this building. And at some point, one guy said, you know what, I don't like all these mosaics everywhere, curtains not good enough. And so they plastered over them. So they left them there. One of the things about that is there's like several, like over 20 tons of gold in those mosaics, because the stones that are made of precious, semi-precious stones, and like all the gold is actually like gold tile.
Wow.
So anyways, they just plaster over it. And then much later on, a guy says to two what are they called? Amsterdam architects, so Dutch architects. He says, I'm worried about this building's condition. Can you just come and check it over and like sketch out? So they show up, they remove all the plaster, they make sketches of all the mosaics, they sketch the whole building, then they plaster the mosaics again, and they leave. And then just recently, like in the last 5 years, they've been carefully removing the plaster.
Oh.
Because what they realized, what the Turkish government realized, is tourists really like seeing it, especially Christian tourists. And we can make a lot of money, because it's expensive going to Hagia Sophia as a tourist. And the Muslim worshippers don't look up, and they're only in the square part of the building. They don't go anywhere else besides the main hall. And so they have these curtains now that hang at angles. So if you're in the Muslim worshipping area and you're looking towards Mecca, you can't see these things. But if you're anywhere else in the building, the angles you look at, you can see them. And so you can like see the Mother Mary holding Jesus Christ, and you can see like in this different area, which is sequestered away, there's Jesus, like a mosaic of him. They're just carefully uncovering him. Unfortunately, damage and earthquakes have affected them. But there's one other weird thing. Is the dome on Hagia Sophia is one of the first domes ever made. It's massive. And it collapsed twice. The third time they rebuilt it, they put 4 archangels to hold it up. So they're paintings of archangels. And they have terrifying faces. And the Muslims didn't like them, so they drew masks on their faces to cover their faces. So they basically like put... Sorry, they didn't draw. They like their metal masks or something they put over their faces. However, one of the masks is being removed on an angle that's facing away from Mecca. So, again, tourists can look at the archangels' faces.
Weird.
Yeah, so it's this amazing, incredible, giant building.
So, how did the Turks... I don't know if you were able to tell when you were there, but how do they feel about the Roman Empire? Are they like we conquered them? Or are they like, we live in the ruins of this great...
It's a weird mix because they used to be, we... Like, this is our heritage, is their thing. But now they're kind of like living in the corpse, like the wall, like how they've treated it. Like the actual population, the explosion, and the problems of the city have not respected a lot of it. But the government now is really trying to revitalize that spirit, and they're restoring a lot, and they're restoring buildings by hand. So when you're there, there's these buildings with these huge tarps around them, and you just hear tink, 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 tink of chisels. So they actually have like laborers and masons in there recarving things with chisels and repairing them. But it is kind of a mix. Basically, after the Ottoman Empire collapsed, and it turned into Turkey, is kind of when they stopped respecting it nearly as much.
Right.
Because part of how Turkey collapsed is the British did something really sneaky.
Well, they conquered it, thought.
Well,
they started an uprising like Lawrence of Arabia and whatnot.
Yeah, the uprising, though, was Arabs. But what they did is... they said to the Jewish people, the Zionists, the actual like Zionist movement, they said, all right, we will give you back your homeland. That's our deal.
Yeah.
So guarantee you get your homeland back. And then they went to the Arabs with Lawrence of Arabia and said, we'll give you this whole area. All right, and can we kick out the Jews? Yeah, sure, buddy. And so they promised them both that. And, well, that mess is still going on. But, so the Arabs basically attacked and sort of rebelled against the Ottomans as well and really damaged it. And it was quite a mess. Like, there were several resolutions in Turkey. A lot went down there. The Greeks tried to conquer it. It's kind of tragic for the Greeks what happened. So after World War One, everyone was kind of done with the war, but the Greeks weren't done with the Ottomans. Because they saw Anatolia, that whole region, belongs to them in their mind.
Yeah.
And so they had a pretty big army, a pretty good navy left over, and so they went to attack it. And they basically said, all right, Russia, you're with us. And Russia's like, yeah, we'll help you. And they said to the British, you're with us. And the British are like, yeah, we'll help you. And they said to the French, you're with us. The French said, yeah, we'll help you. So this is at the start. Then the collapsing Turks said, hey, British, we have this deal. We're not going to fight each other anymore. We flipped sides at the end of the war to help you fight Germany. And the British are like, okay, yeah, we can't be bothered. And the French are like, we had a really bad time during World War One, so we're kind of done. And then the Turks went to the Russians and said, please don't attack us, please don't attack us. Here, have a bunch of stuff. We'll let you come back to Constantinople. We'll let you, have your Orthodox stuff here. We have good alliance with each other. And so the Greeks basically got abandoned. And then there's one big battle that basically could have gone either way. The Ottoman, or the Turks won, and they routed the Greeks. But if the Greeks had won that battle, then they would have had Constantinople and Anatolia. So it was literally came down to one battle. But the Greeks kind of got betrayed by all their allies at that point.
So, sounds like...
And they're technically still at war.
Wonder if...
There's a Greek law in their constitution, which basically says they're at war with Turkey until Anatolia is theirs again, within their constitution.
It's like Cato back in the Roman Empire, where he'd end every meeting with "Carthage must be destroyed."
Yeah. And so there's been peace talks recently, actually, between the two of them, of basically saying, we're allies, right? And the Greeks we're not getting rid of that.
Well, isn't the reason Turkey can't join the EU basically Greece?
Yes.
Like they just keep saying, no, you can't come in. No, you can't come in. Nope.
Yeah.
Not letting you
No,
in.
there's a lot of bad blood. But what's really weird, so the Blue Mosque is, again, it's right next to the Hippodrome. So the Blue Mosque and Hagia Sophia are very close to each other. And the Blue Mosque was their attempt to try to rival it. It's a really cool building, but Hagia Sophia is just insane. And it's had a lot of work done all over, where the Blue Mosque was kind of built, and boom, that's the Blue Mosque. But mosques are kind of empty compared to cathedrals and churches, because cathedrals have reliquaries in them, right? Like the bits of dead saints and like paintings and like these beautiful mosaics sometimes, like all sorts of stuff. And mosques just have patterns and like no actual defined art. It's just like tiling on the walls.
There is a statue of a pope. It might be in the Hagia Sophia. He's holding a shard of a spear. And that's like the Spear of Destiny. That's the spear that...
No, that's no longer in the Hagia Sophia.
It's not?
No. That's one of the things that the Doge took.
Okay, so that's in Venice or something? Or?
No. So that is in France inside that big church. A lot of this... So the Hagia Sophia contained the Shroud of Turin. It contained one of the nails. It had a piece of the Spear of Destiny. It had some of the wood of the cross in it. Doge took all of that, and he gave it to different people. So a lot of it's in France now.
Because I know the Crown of Thorns is in Notre Dame.
Sorry, the Crown of Thorns was in there as well. Yeah, so it's all... He gave a lot of that stuff to Notre Dame. But it used to be in Hagia Sophia. Yeah.
But yeah, the Catholics, I think when they were looking at their book, the bit on idolatry just sort of fell out in there.
One of the weird things is, so again, this is not like maybe another 3-minute walk from the Hagia Sophia is the royal palace of the Turk monarchy, I guess the Ottoman Empire. And in there's like the treasury, and it's the old treasury. There's a lot of gold in there. There's massive gems. There was a diamond like maybe the size of a golf ball or bigger in there. There's just so much gold in there. So this is the treasury. And they have like various different interesting rooms talking about like history of the palace, how people lived here. There's a section where they modernized, so they wanted to impress their European guests. So it's all like Victorian, sort of like late 18th century Victorian fanciness in there. You go in there, it's like there's paintings of sultans, but it's the style of the Victorian paintings. And if you go into the royal harem, the sultan's mother's room and the head concubine, whatever she is called, they also have that sort of modernized, because people lived in there until like basically the end of World War One, and so it's like all done up in that style. But they have one room, which is part of the museum that's full of sacred relics. And so there's like a box full of the beard trimmings of the Prophet Muhammad. There's actually several there. There's his sandals in there. There's some stuff. But what was interesting to me is they have the staff of Moses in there. But I don't believe it's the staff of Moses. And why I say that is it's a wooden staff. And his staff is bronze. Because in this story, when the Israelites got attacked by snakes and were getting poisoned by them, he said, take all your copper and melt it down and cast it in the form of 2 snakes and wrap it around my staff.
Right.
And then look upon this staff and you'll be cured of the poison. And that's the staff he used afterwards. It was this, he had the 2 serpent staff.
Right. But the staff itself could still be wood, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Maybe the snakes fell off.
Yeah. It also looked really flimsy.
It's old.
Yeah. Well, it didn't look thick enough.
It's really old.
But one of the other interesting things was the Sword of David is in there.
Oh.
And it actually looks old and used. And there's a lot of like, that's the one I recognized as a name, but there's a lot of apparently weapons that were used by like the followers of Muhammad. And the thing, that's like way, way later in history. So those weapons are a lot newer than the Sword of David. But the Sword of David is apparently in there.
Things like the Sword of David and like Durandal.
Yeah.
And the Spear of Destiny. So the Spear of Destiny...
There's 3 of them.
It wasn't just like the bleeding lance, the lance of Christ or whatever. It wasn't just this object that you're like, ooh, this is special, keep it. Like, there was a pope or a bishop. I think he was a pope, though. He went on a crusade with it. That was his weapon.
No, that's the same thing with the Sword of David. It was used a lot. Like, it's sit in the museum. It's like, this is a Sword of David. And then it says everyone else used it afterwards because a lot of people apparently used it.
But I was thinking about like how would you, if you're writing like an RPG and you wanted to have the bleeding spear or the sword of David, what powers would you give it? And it's like they don't really have a record of their powers. It's more like this sword led them to victory. And you go, why? Like what made them victorious? And it's like, and you can't. It doesn't have like, it doesn't shoot laser beams. No. It doesn't cut through metal like it's butter. It's just, it always strikes true. And it's like, okay,
+1.
And so you're like, what would be a really elegant way to represent a magical weapon?
Yeah.
And you're like, well, +1. Like that's all you can do. And because it's just better, but it's not better in any notable way. It's just better. And I thought that's actually brilliant what D&D did, the +1, because there's all these things like give them a special power, but you can make the item have a really cool history and look really neat. But the +1 is this super elegant, like,
well, imagine like there's fragments of the head of the Spear of Destiny, but imagine you're the Pope, like with the Spear of Destiny, and you get attacked by like the Marauders. Yeah. So like Saladin attacks you, and you like poke one guy and the head breaks off.
Yeah.
Oops.
Well, I think it's always been missing its point. I think that was sort of the because it broke off in Jesus' side, I think was the idea.
Yeah, or you have the Sword of David.
Yeah.
And you're out fighting with it and it snaps.
So like David, right? Like, what's that? 2000 BC?
Yeah, no, that sword's old.
Is it like a bronze or like?
It was like
a khopesh?
No, it was like this long. It was like a hefty looking thing.
But what's it made of?
I think they had iron at the time.
Okay, so it's like brown now.
Yeah,
because like you think it'd be bronze, but
it might have been bronze.
Bronze wouldn't.
It was too long to be bronze though. It's a long sword.
Bronze would last. Like that's the one big advantage of bronze is it doesn't.
No, it was too long to be bronze.
Weird.
Yeah, it's like 3,000 years old, I think. David was like 1,000 BC.
Okay, I don't know what he was. He was, let's see, he was the first king of... He was during the time of the Romans, I guess, wouldn't he have been, right? Because, how's that work?
Osiris the Great is only like 200 years away from him.
But he fought Goliath.
Yeah.
Goliath was a Philistine.
Yeah.
And didn't the Romans basically invent the Philistines? Or did they give them land? Maybe that's what they did.
They might have returned land to them.
Because Palestine is the land of the Philistines are the Palestinians.
Well, no, those are Arabs now.
No, but the Philistines were Palestinians. Like, Palestine is their land. And so it's actually kind of, like, David was a Jew and Goliath was a Palestinian.
Yeah. Just
to give you an idea of the history of the region.
So here's something weird about Istanbul. Move on from that old history pondering. So the tourist industry, we were in like super tourist part of the city, which is weird because it's also like the most sacred part of the city. It's the most touristy part. Anyways, so all the people who are running the tourist stalls and doing the tourist things are Arabs.
Right.
The Turks you find when you go out of the touristy area.
So
Turks look like a mix between Greeks and Arabs.
Makes sense. But so like Turks, Armenians, Kurds, that whole group would be called Caucasians, right? Technically?
I guess.
Because they're from the Caucasus Mountains.
Yeah, I guess so.
So they'd be the Caucasians versus the Arabs. Which would be the...
Yeah, but it's very easy actually to tell the difference between like a pure blood Turk versus a pure blood Arab, like just descent-wise. Like there's mixing going on now, but the city is actually mostly Turks, but the Arabs there's so many Arabs in the touristy area. And so I was like noticing this and it's like kind of weird. Like there's Arabs everywhere in Turkey, but like they immigrate there. And then when we went to Greece, in the tourist area, it was full of Turks running all the stalls. And then the Greeks, you have to go farther out into the less tourist area to find Greeks.
So I don't remember. Were the Ottomans Turks or were they?
They were Turks.
Ottomans.
The Ottomans were Turks.
Okay.
They're the clan of the Turks.
So then, what was the Young Turks? Were just they didn't like the government and
they didn't like.
I guess they didn't like the nobility. It's like the French Revolution.
No.
Yeah.
And a lot of the Young Turks were Arabs.
Even though they were.
Yes.
Well, didn't the Young Turks, like, they were a very racially diverse group.
Yeah.
Until they got into power. And then they, like, purged everyone.
Yeah. Also, like, the a lot of Arabs, it's different now. Turkey is still actually surprisingly lenient in being Muslim, but the Ottomans were a very, very different type of Muslim than the Arabs. Like, they're the same sect, but just how they treat and act is very different.
If anyone wants to fact check me on the Armenians and the Turks, by the way, if you go to Wikipedia, fair enough, but look at the history section, because
It's changed a lot.
it changes every month or so between Armenian genocide and Armenian relocation. Like there's a war within the Wikipedia article. Yeah. I don't know if that's been locked down, but back when I was looking at it, it was like back in... So you got to look at the history, which is a great feature that Wikipedia has. You can also kind of get an idea of how people's opinions have changed over time.
Yes. Oh, but it was quite the experience. I don't know if Dad realized what he was doing. He's the one who organized our trip, our father, of having us be in Turkey and then going to Athens, because the security is insane. I mean, Istanbul's airport actually has really intense security because they have a lot of terrorism there. You have to go through security to get into the airport, and then you go through security to get into the airplane section. But they don't want anything happening in the airport itself.
Do you think do you think the history of Istanbul is over? Like, it's just a Turkish city now, or do you think that's one of those, like...
It will be sat on until it drastically changes. Like
the Byzantines will rise again or something.
Well, it's not the Byzantines. Like, the Italian Byzantine is done. But you know how, like, Poland and Russia, like, the Poland's are depicted as frothing at the mouth, ready to send missiles?
Yeah.
Like, that is kind of Greece and Turkey next to each other.
But, like, Istanbul, like, when did they take it? Like, that was that would have been the late 1400s, early 1500s, somewhere in there?
Yeah, around there.
Yeah, so it's only 500 years it's been under a different country, and then that country got conquered by the Britons, who, for some reason, didn't give it back to the glorious Roman Empire.
Yeah.
But I guess Rome was gone. Well, no, Finland's still around. I heard that recently, that Finland is the true inheritor of Rome.
Oh.
And the reasoning is because, so of course the Western Roman Empire fell, so the Eastern Roman Empire was the inheritors. But then when the Eastern Roman Empire was falling to the Ottomans, the last princess of Rome, married the Tsar of Russia. He was obsessed with Rome, so he made sure to get himself a Byzantine princess. And so when they fell, he said Russia was the inheritor of Rome. But then when the Soviets took over Russia, the only place in the Russian Confederation that hasn't been conquered since then was Finland. Finland refused to swap over to Soviets. So Finland is the true inheritors of Rome.
So one of the really interesting things, actually, you mentioned Russia again, remind me. So the museum, the Ottomans and the Russians had a really strong alliance, like the Tsar, and because of the Orthodox, because Hagia Sophia is kind of their equivalent of the Sistine Chapel.
Yeah.
It is the greatest Orthodox church. So there's a museum nearby that has a bunch of Orthodox relics in it, and there's...
I never thought about it, but Orthodox... Wait, how does that work? Who is more Roman? The Vatican or the Orthodox Church?
Yeah, that is weird.
Because they're both... The Vatican's in Rome.
Yeah.
But...
Well, it's kind of the splitting of the two empires is when that happened, like the two Romes.
But the Orthodox kept the tradition.
Yeah.
So that's kind of weird. Yeah.
So the... Also, never tell a Greek person this, but Greek... Or maybe never tell an Italian this because it's older. Italian sounds like Greek. Like, it really does. Like, when I was hearing the Greeks speak, it's like, this just sounds like Italians.
I really like the Greek accent.
Yeah, no, but just the language, not the accent, the language. Like, Greek sounds so much like Italian.
Huh.
Or I guess switch it the other way around because Greek's a lot older. Anyways, so there's art of Jesus, like a lot of art of Jesus. It's kind of insane. And all the Russian art, he looks Baltic or Russian. And there's other art in there of Jesus by other people.
He's got a big fur hat on.
Well, it's not that, like, you know how the Russians just have that sort of look on their face?
Yeah.
Like, he recognizes Jesus, but he looks Russian. And when we were in the Czech Republic, a lot of their art of him, for some reason, actually looks Anglo of Jesus. Like, they have a lot of Anglo paintings of him. But the Greek Jesus, some of the Greek art, he looks Greek. Because they're also very Orthodox there. It's like wherever you go, Jesus will actually look like the group of people. So that's one of the other things, like, people complain about Jesus looking white. It's like, no, do you understand? Art of Jesus looks like the people. Like, it always looks like Jesus. He has a very distinct face. But he looks like the people they're doing the art of.
I have seen a couple reconstructions, and the interesting thing is you see the classic, the one that a lot of, I don't know what you'd call them exactly, like party pooper types. I'm not sure what you call them, but the, push around of Jesus looks kind of like a curly-haired Greek man, right? He's got but there's a lot of other ones that actually look a lot like the painting that everyone sees.
Yeah.
Like that painting might have actually been based on something at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was a Syrian, so he probably looked Syrian.
Yeah.
But Syrians were not dark skinned. Like they aren't dark skinned now. They're well,
kind of olive skinned.
Yeah, kind of like Arabs or Greeks.
They look Greek.
Yeah.
Like they literally look Greek.
Yeah, you have a Syrian friend, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's Jesus.
Well, no, he's a lot darker skinned as Syrian.
Okay. Just imagine whenever you think of Jesus, think of him.
Yes, but so moving to Greece, so it's old city, actually, Athens, because we went to Athens. It's a very old city.
Yeah, very, very old.
Yeah. And as I said, like there's a transition of now all the tat shops and like touristy people are now Turks. But at least there was diversity in what they're selling. Because something about Istanbul is they have the tourism meta down packed. So there is this... What's one of the things you think about with Istanbul?
Like touristy or just in general?
In general. Like think of like Lawrence of Arabia's in Istanbul and like the things you'd encounter.
Right. All I can think of right now is ice cream. But
okay, that's there too. That's very unique.
Fezzes.
I bought a fez.
Okay. Snake charmers? Is that Istanbul or is that Baghdad?
Okay. No, so the buying the ice cream and buying the fez.
Right. Spice. Cones of spice.
Yeah. And so think about the spice now.
Yeah. Cones of spice everywhere.
So where do you get the spice?
From the market?
What's a different word for market?
Bazaar?
Yeah. And what's Istanbul famous for?
The
Grand Bazaar.
Oh.
It's huge. It's the biggest bazaar in the world.
Right.
So I thought it's like you go in there and you can find anything. That's like descriptions of it. That's what I thought. So there's these touristy shops all around this place, and there's like a little bazaar. So there's a clothing shop, there's a carpet shop, there's a spice and candy shop, and there's a like watch jewelry shop.
Yeah, they're famous for candies as well, aren't they?
Yeah.
Like special.
Yeah. So the spice shop has candies as well. So there's like a jewelry shop, and there's a kind of hat shop. So there's about 5 shops, and then just throw in 2 extra shops. And like those are the same kind. They're just like site various. Like a tat shop just sells like little fake artifacts. And
it's just that like 1,000 times.
Yes. It's literally, there is 7 different shops repeated over and over and over again.
So it's like Skagway, where like every shop just sells...
It's like and the restaurants there, like apparently the food of Turkey is so diverse and so interesting. Every single restaurant in Istanbul is the same restaurant.
You want falafel? Or do you want falafel?
Basically, it is basically that. Like, everyone is the same. The best food we had while we were there, we went to this like, it was not fast food, but it was like local run sort of fast food, like a pizzeria sort of thing. And it was like naan bread pizza that they sold. And so we were just like, we were just walking, we're hungry, like, let's go there. And they had like this TV set up with like the top 20 Turkish songs playing on. There's a bunch of Turkish families and they're just like quickly scarfing down food and just sit down. We're really tired, hungry. It's like, all right, we order food here. It's like, man, this place is really good. We couldn't find that restaurant again. We looked for it. We walked around. We couldn't find it again. We ended up like going to all the touristy restaurants because we're walking around hungry. And it's like, it was just the same food over and over again.
So those spice cone things.
They didn't have them, unfortunately.
Okay. I was going to ask, are they real or is there like a paper thing?
No,
thing underneath.
They didn't have them. They had different things. But anyway, so back to Athens. Athens, there's a place called the Big Bazaar.
And they've got olive oil, I assume.
No. It was literally, it was like a antique secondhand store.
Yeah.
And it was this old building, and you go inside and you go up a flight of stairs, and there's just room. It looked like a hoarder had been there. And it's just like, if you wanted to film a movie, you go to Athens, you go to the Big Bazaar, you buy the shit from it, and those are your props. Like, there was an old telescope, like a proper telescope. There's like racks of swords. There's this one room just filled with glassware. Like, That's why I wanted to see in the Grand Bazaar, is like that, but stretching for kilometers, because the Grand Bazaar is huge.
Do you remember we went to a secondhand store in British Columbia, I think it was, and in the sort of private upstairs, do you remember this place?
Yeah.
You go upstairs to the private section where it's still a store, but it's the section he only lets his trusted customers up into. And it was just full of like Nazi paraphernalia.
Yep.
Like there's the giant portrait of Hitler on the wall and like the armbands and what was that about?
Yeah. And then Athens also has a place called the Flea Market, which again has been taken over by tourism. A lot of actually like army clothing, because apparently the Greeks like buying army clothes. But at least they had like 20 shops in it, like repeating sort of varieties. And so it had like the little things shops, like where I got you a statue of Hermes.
Yeah.
And they sort of like, you go along every 3 shops to the thing shop, but they're all unique things. Like it's, oh, here's a statue of Hermes, but this one is painted in bronze. And you go to different ones like, oh, this is just the cheap plaster one. You go to different ones, this is the Chinese knockoff shop. Like there's a variety.
This one's made of marble carved at night.
Actually,
from the Temple of Artemis.
One, I didn't get it because it wasn't a god I liked, but the base of it was carved in marble and the upper statue was actually solid brass, but it wasn't any of the gods I liked, so I didn't get it. It was also really heavy.
Probably expensive too.
Yes, it was.
And fragile, I guess, if it's... Well, yeah, I don't know.
So,
what god don't you like? It was...
No, it wasn't a god I liked, and it just didn't look all that good. Like, I think one of them was of Hera.
It's one of the boring gods.
So, one of the really weird things about Athens is, again, I said it's old. So there's marble tiles everywhere that you walk on because the city was paved in marble. And the closer you get to the Acropolis, the more of it there is, until you're walking up to the Acropolis. And it's really smooth because so many people have walked on it. It's ridiculously smooth. And some of the stone is like over 2,000 years old. Like 3,000 or so. Acropolis is a very old. Anyways, you get up there. And some of it's not even like laid down marble tiles, it's just rocks on the ground. But it's polished so smooth it could have been put into a rock tumbler. And people are falling over. It's a hot, dry, sunny day, and people are slipping on the stones. Because so many people have walked on the stones of the Acropolis, it's being polished by millions of shoes walking over it.
Wow.
They're rebuilding the Acropolis. You know how I talk about when they rebuilt it? They are. They're doing it really slowly. And whenever there's a piece missing that's just gone, there's a mountain nearby which the original stone was mined from to build the Acropolis. So they go to that mountain and sparingly mine from it and to replace pieces that are missing. And so when you're near the Acropolis, it's like under construction right now.
It's been rebuilt several times.
There's just piles of stone all around it, of parts they're not sure where they go yet, so they're just waiting to put them back.
There's a replica of it nearby, right, as well?
Yeah, there's replica pieces of it in the museum. But if you actually want to see a lot of the really cool parts of the Acropolis, you go to the London Museum.
So is there...
They actually returned some of the statues that they took because the Greeks asked really nicely. And one of the interesting things about the British, they learned a lesson quite recently, but when people ask nicely, they do return stuff. They don't do that anymore. Because...
Let me guess. Okay, I don't know, but I'm going to guess, okay? Erdogan wanted money. And so he asked for some Turkish artifacts back, and then he sold them. That's my guess.
No, I can't remember who it was, but they asked for some bronze death masks back that the British had in the museum. It's like, okay, fair enough. We'll give them back to you. They melted them down. They sold some of them, others they melted down and sold the melted down bronze. And the British museum owners went, you are never getting anything again, and we're not giving stuff to people who ask anymore. Because you can't be trusted with your own artifacts.
Bronze isn't even, like, it's not cheap, but it's not that expensive, right? Like, couldn't they have just...
No, like, one place melted it down again. I think it might be melted down, like, religiously and sold because they didn't like it.
Right.
And another place just, like, immediately sold it to private collectors. And so the British Museum went, okay, we're not giving things back anymore.
Have you seen... I don't know if this was the British Museum or not, but there was...
Well, the Egyptians are really happy with the British Museum because a lot of people like whine about the British Museum, but the Egyptians love it. I was like, this stuff would have been destroyed. It was destroyed when the British didn't take it, so we're really happy that they did.
I saw some sort of like, it was like some protester. They're throwing stuff at a painting of a king or something, or whatever it was. And it's an oil canvas, so it's actually quite funny. Like, it all just slides down because
they have bulletproof glass in front of a lot of them.
Well, this was just like bare canvas,
Oh.
but like it wasn't. But then they took out an X-Acto blade and just slashed it to pieces, and it's like, why? What are you doing? What are you saving?
When someone does that,
Whatever cause you're for, I'm against.
when someone does that, they're museums. Actually, this is a genuine held opinion of mine. Museums should have stockades out in front of them, and anyone who attacks art in a museum should be put in those stockades, and there should be rotten fruit outside so people can throw it at them, and they become a live art exhibit outside the museum or art exhibit that they tried to vandalize. And they're there until they're like near like a point of unhealth, then they're thrown to prison. But their punishment should be like... the
stocks are actually quite a nasty punishment if you think about it, because there's no...
comfortable position.
Well, no, I was thinking there's no court justice. It's all public justice, right? Whatever the people think you deserve.
Yeah.
Like, someone can just come up to you and punch you and there's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
And if they think you deserve it, they will. Like, I guess you could have a guard protect the person, but yeah, it's a nasty punishment.
Or...
because I think a lot of people would be pissed off if they saw someone slashing up a painting.
Yeah, no, that's why I'm saying, like, I think it's appropriate punishment. Like, they should just...
Well, I think they might die, is what I'm getting at.
Well, that's what happens. That's what happens.
But I mean, hey, if you don't think your life is worth as much as a painting, then go ahead, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's like this dude 200 years ago just poured his soul into something.
Yeah.
And
we recognize that he poured his soul into it, and
you just come along, and you're like, because of this thing this guy never heard about that I'm upset about, I'm going to ruin his hard work. It's like, he didn't even... maybe he would have been on your side. Like, he would have been like, oh yeah, we definitely need to stop using lead in drinking water or whatever you're... like, it's hard to think of... it could be the most, like, stop putting arsenic in the drinking water. I'm going to slash that painting. It's like, maybe putting arsenic in the drinking water is not so bad, because if that's the people... like, you don't really gain many supporters.
Yeah, so the Greek, even though it's like old marble stuff, the Greek museum guards is telling this older are really uppity and like very quickly get mad at you and tell you off. And it's just a good thing, I think, for them to do that.
I mean, it's kind of weird though, isn't it? Because Athens has been conquered so many times and ransacked so many times. It's like, what are you protecting? Like,
well, they have bits and bobs.
I'm pretty sure that the Acropolis is full of graffiti. Like the
parts of it are. It's carved graffiti.
Like when the mercenaries hold up, and I think it was in the Acropolis where they're...
yeah, so there's this one part of the Acropolis, so it's if you walk around like a full loop of the Acropolis, you see one side and it's like, oh, those are the European mercenaries who the Knights of St. John, I think it was, or
maybe, yeah. It's been a while since I read the book.
They fortified it, and it's like, so Greek stuff, European wall attached to the mountainside, and you just know that's what they did. So there's this little tower that has a massive Greek flag in the center of it. And you can go up there, and there's just so much graffiti. And some of that graffiti is probably thousands of years old up there.
What's the name of that Primarch?
Robuti Gilliman?
No, the one who builds walls.
Dorn.
Yeah, Rogel Dorn.
Yeah, Rogel Dorn.
Yeah, that's basically the Knights of St. John in general. Like, Malta is just...
Fortify.
Have you been to Malta?
No.
Yeah, because I haven't. But yeah, that's basically just a giant castle.
Yeah.
Oh, so here's the question. Did you go up, did you interview like random Greek and Turkish citizens and say, who owns Cyprus? And just see what happens.
Actually, while we were in Greece, a little bit before, there had been massive protests and a building had been attacked. While we were there, there's the agitator of a different country who has a lot of his people inside Greece. And he basically went there and had like a huge conference and like was rallying them up. And there's planned protests for when we were after we left, there's going to be protests in Greece. And so we're going around Greece and we just see this massive police van. And outside of it are just two guys in full riot gear, just like drinking coffee and chatting. And just on street corners every once in a while, there's just like police, some in riot gear. There's some military police just walking around, hanging out.
This is Greece?
Yes.
Wow.
And so our hotel...
Your flag looks like a beach towel.
We were staying at this hotel, and I went out by myself to like go see some stuff. And so when I left, there's a cop car out there, and there's just one cop sitting in there, like drinking his coffee and like looking at his phone. So I come back, there's a second cop inside the cop car with him. So, okay. And I go upstairs and come down with Dad, we go to get supper. We go outside, And there's a motorcycle there next, and there's 3 cops. It's like, what the? And then we get back, and there's a second motorcycle and a 4th cop. And so,
Just planning a raid.
well, they're just like, they just were being in places ready, but making people used to their presence. And there's 2 reasons. One is to make people feel safe, because like these were nasty protests. Like one of the events that happened is a bunch of Jewish tourists. Like this was a week before we were there, where a mob, Islamic mob, chased them and were like shouting to kill them and wanted them to come outside of their hotel.
Was that in Greece? Or?
Yeah, that's in Athens.
Oh, wow.
And there's protests as well. Like the protests were over Israel-Palestine.
They've got a lot of Muslims in
Yes.
Athens then?
Yeah, they've got a lot of Turks and Arabs are being immigrating there. And so I didn't realize, but the Greeks are super Orthodox. Like, they have these little churches everywhere, and they have these massive cathedrals as well. There's this like massive mall or hotel. You know, downtown we have the museum that has like the building built around it. That's for the museum. So there's like this massive building, and has a piece of it chewed out because there's an old church sitting there, and they didn't want to touch the church. And it's just this tiny church. Like it's maybe the size, like the inside's maybe the size of this bedroom we're in.
Do they have?
But they didn't touch that church.
Do they still have like the forums and stuff in Athens? Like where all the people would hang out and talk to each other? Like
They have, by the Acropolis, they have 2 of those. Most of the marble in Athens is gone. Like it's only the buildings near the Acropolis that's left over.
Or like do they have like Diogenes' bathtub on a street corner?
Unfortunately they don't.
Or do they have like a, just on the town square, they just have a bathtub as like a little statue for fun?
No, a lot of the Greek stuff is gone because the Christians replaced it with Christian Orthodox stuff. And a lot of the Christian Orthodox stuff is still there. And still very well maintained, very beautiful, very much in place. But they replaced it.
Shame though, because that's like the found like I doubt
Yeah, like the Acropolis is basically the only thing left.
what was its name? The Academy, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess that's probably gone. And-
Yeah. Yeah, as I said, the Acropolis is one of the only things left. So after Athens,
Or the olive tree, is that still there?
actually it is up on the sacred olive tree is still on the Acropolis.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Wait, what? How long do olives live?
The tree might have been replanted.
Or it's magical? Well, in Minas Tirith, they replaced the tree, right? Like they
Did. They have
they
to.
find the new one at the
Yeah.
top of the mountain or whatever.
Yeah, but that's the olive tree that was given by Athena.
I think it was Eru.
No, the olive tree was given by Athena
Yeah.
because there was a contest between Poseidon and Athena
Yeah.
who would get Athens
Yeah, and Poseidon off for demons from the sea.
horses.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
and Athena offered
Olives.
a disgusting tasting fruit.
Yeah.
Yeah, with delicious oil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Actually, olives might be fine. I've never had a fresh olive, but like I don't like pickled olives. They're gross.
yeah. So
Did you eat any olives in
I had a few.
like fresh ones or
I didn't have any fresh olives.
can you eat a fresh olive even, or are they like super hard? I don't know.
I didn't have any fresh olives. I did have black clava, which is amazing.
It's like a thing you cover your face with when you're robbing a bank, right?
That's a balaclava. No, so black clava. So take lasagna, right?
Yeah.
And remove the noodles
Okay.
and replace that with cheese.
Okay. So it's more cheesier lasagna.
And then it's like a special spongy cheese.
Okay. That sounds
And
gross.
that's on top. No, it's really good. And then like put a bunch of mushrooms and olives in it.
This sounds even worse.
That's black clava. That's amazing.
Oh, it sounds horrible. Wow. Maybe the cheese adds
It's
to it.
actually not a cheese. You think there is a lot of cheese in there. It's a different kind of noodle. It's like this massive spongy noodle.
Why was I thinking of spongy noodles the other day? I think it was the dream I had last night. I dreamed I met Dr. Brock Summers.
Huh. Weird.
And I think maybe we were sharing baklava. Maybe that's what it was.
So, moving on from my travels, I guess, because this is a travel vlog now.
Okay, to Brock Summers.
We completely skipped over Prague, because you've been there.
Yeah. Boring. No, beautiful. Most beautiful
We
city
saw
on
some
earth.
stuff we didn't see there, and I went to find, like, there's so...
I'm
I would love to go to Prague again with you to show you the other things I found there. Like, one of the most amazing experiences I've actually had in my life happened this time I went to Prague. So...
There you were on your Segway.
Yes. I'm on my Segway. There actually is Segway tours there.
Yeah, I know. It's like That's all they do is segways.
Well, no, they've gotten rid of those because it's really bumpy. They have these special electric bikes now, which have these massive tires to reduce the bumpiness.
Okay.
But so there's Prague Castle, which has this huge cathedral in it, and there's the old city wall right nearby. So the old wall that went around Prague, and I was looking at it, and there's like a river to cross to get to it. And I was like, I want to go up to this old fort because there's like a gatehouse up there. And there's a walking path up there, and I said to our dad, like, I want to go up there. It's like, okay, I'll meet you at the Starbucks later. Like, we'll meet in 2 hours at the Starbucks.
Yeah.
And it's the most beautiful Starbucks in the world.
Yeah. There's pictures of the place. You can find them online because it's famous.
Yeah. So we'll meet there 2 hours later.
And it's at the top of the tallest hill there.
Yeah, it's right next to Prague Castle.
Yeah.
And so I was like, we'll meet there in 2 hours. Because like his hip was hurt and he's like, I can't make it up this hill. And so I just went off and went up the hill. And I went into this old gatehouse, and like there's graffiti everywhere. And it's like a lover spot. Like it's graffiti but it's a heart of initial plus initial.
Yeah.
And there's like thousands of names in there. And it's not really maintained, but it's like the old wall of Prague. And it's like, oh, this is cool. And I just went walking along. I continued on. And it's quite hard to get up there. There's actually a tram that leads to the top. Or like, not a tram, you know those things you like stand them and they're on the ground, they go up the side of a mountain?
Like a gondola? Or a tram?
It's different than those, but It's basically like serves that purpose. It brings you up a mountain.
Okay.
Anyway, so I took the walking path up. And I'm up there, and there's a bunch of gardens up there, and like rose gardens, and there's a whole bunch of Czech people up there, and it's the weekend, and this is like how the Czech get away from the tourists. It's like the nice spot of the city.
And they saw you and they're like...
Well, they speak Russian.
They speak Czech.
Yeah, which is Russian.
No, it's like insect. It's like...
Anyways,
yeah.
And there's an observatory up there. It's this really nice area. And there's a church up there as well. And it's one of the sites of the cross. So there's this weird thing in Europe, which is they're called sites of the cross. And you basically... There's a collection of them throughout a city or like a country, and you pilgrimage to each one. It's to represent...
You saunter.
Yeah, it's to represent Jesus carrying the cross. So you go to each one, and so it has like a painting of Jesus at a different stage of the journey, and they're usually next to churches. And so this one was upgraded from a church into a cathedral, because that's actually apparently how it works, is they start as churches, and then they get declared cathedrals.
Yeah, well, Catholics, right? Like, I always think anime is stupid and ridiculous, and like they have it's an S tier kaiju or whatever. Yeah. That's what the Catholic Church does. Like, they literally have tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 relics.
Yeah. Yeah, and they upgrade their churches into cathedrals.
Yeah.
So, anyways,
bunch of weebs.
I went into this cathedral.
Yeah.
And it's got this really weird cross on the wall. Like, it's suspended in a metal frame, and it's like this old wooden cross that's actually broken. I was like, okay, that's kind of weird looking. And it was far more simple than the other cathedrals we went into. I actually accidentally got blessed in one of the cathedrals we've gone to. There was some sort of religious holiday going on while we were there, and a priest had a holly leaf covered in holy water, and he's flicking at the crowd. I was just a tourist wandering around. I went into this cathedral, and the priest sprayed me in the face with holy water. I actually did have to clean my glasses.
Don't go to Korea, ever. I don't know if you know about their Christian traditions, but you do not want to accidentally get involved in those. Like, they crucify themselves.
Oh.
Yeah.
Anyways, so I'm in this like little church. There's this one woman there, and she's just praying away on the little pew. And this guy, like this Czech guy, he's got this jacket. He just walks past me. He walks over to this little door, and he unlocks it. And he goes in. He goes up the staircase, and the pipe organs in these cathedrals in the Church of the Czech are all up on balconies that face away from the congregation. So he goes up there and he just sits there, and they have a little mirror so they can look up at the mirror and see the congregation behind him. And he just starts playing. He's like, oh, this guy probably just has like keys to this place, and he's just practicing for later. It was a Sunday, but it's like service is over, the morning service, whatever. So he's just playing away. And he's playing the pipe organ. He's like, man, this guy's actually really good. And the music is just building, and like he's going through the different ranges of pipe organ. And it's like, it's amazing. I'm really enjoying just standing there, and the reverb in this church is really nice. And I hear ding, and a bell rings. And two priests walk out into the center room, and one of them opens up a book, and he holds down in front of the other guy, and he just starts chanting in Latin. to like the room which has me and this one woman, Czech woman, who's praying, and he just starts going through the sermon, and it matches the music, and like singing the sermon. Then the piano or organ playing stops, and he starts proselytizing to me and this woman. It's like, okay, this was pretty cool. Well, I said I'd meet at the Starbucks, so I walk out there. I'm walking along, and I see this black-haired giant limping through the crowd.
Yeah.
And it's our dad.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, he decided to come up here as well. And so we go back into the church together, and we'll listen to the pipe organ play some more. But it's like this amazing experience of just like going in there and encountering this random sermon. And it was really, really beautiful music. Amsterdam. What is Amsterdam famous for?
Dye.
What else is it famous for?
The color orange.
What else is it famous for?
Dutch East India Trade Company.
What else is it famous for?
Stroopwafel.
What else is it famous for?
Tallest people on earth.
What else is it famous for?
Bikes.
What else? You can say something else before you get naughty. Starts with a C.
Drugs.
Okay, well, it's also famous for canals.
Yeah, I was also going to say windmills. I was trying to avoid windmills by saying everything else I could think of. Because windmills is like the main
Yeah, it's
thing.
also famous for brothels and prostitutes.
And dikes.
Yeah. And
then they also hold back the water, like outside the brothels.
Yeah. Yeah, and also...
For lesbians. There's a joke in there somewhere.
Yeah, the buildings are wider at the top than at the bottom.
Oh.
Because they had laws in Amsterdam, which is your building tax was based on the size of the bottom of your building, like its
Have you seen
floor space. So they built them so they get pristinely wider.
Did you see the they have a street made of circle buildings? They're like orbs.
No.
Yeah. It was an experiment.
No, I did. They have this giant statue which is on the main street, which is about freeing slaves. Like, I haven't looked up, but like there's a bunch of African guys like in chains. They're being freed because Amsterdam had a pretty big slave trade. One of the things I was kind of disappointed is it didn't show like a British ship shooting at a Dutch ship and sinking it to free. Like they didn't seem to mention that part of like ending the slave trade in Amsterdam.
Did the British force the Dutch as well?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Everyone was forced. The British stopped everyone.
But the Dutch have really close ties with Britain, though,
yes.
because they were the same country briefly. So
yeah, the William of Orange ruled Britain.
Yeah, ruined Britain.
No, ruled. So Amsterdam though is weird. Like it when you're flying into not even Amsterdam, the Netherlands are weird. When you're flying in there, like you know how Japan is weird and kind of like constructed and reinforced.
Yeah.
Amsterdam and the Netherlands look engineered. Like, there is canals everywhere, and the ground is so flat, and the coastline has right angles. It doesn't look right. You look at the coastline, and it's not behaving like nature should. No, it's actually below waterline a lot of the time while I was there.
And they have tulips. That's another thing they're famous for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, so, it's really weird, though. It's this beautiful old city, Amsterdam.
Food production.
Yes, that's another thing. It's this beautiful old city. It's got these massive churches, got these like beautiful bits of architecture. Most of the churches aren't used as churches anymore because they're very atheist in Amsterdam for some reason. Or
did you go outside of Amsterdam at all?
Yes, we did.
Okay, because from what I understand, it's quite different from the rest of the Netherlands.
No, it is.
It's like it has its own laws and stuff even.
Yeah, even the city center has different laws from other parts of the city.
Yeah.
So Amsterdam is very famous for its brothels, so it's like, haha, look, here's a phallic lollipop to suck on. Here's like these...
And
like,
that's like in Amsterdam?
Yeah, there's like drug shops everywhere, like you can buy...
I've never thought of it as being famous for brothels, actually. I didn't know that.
Yeah, they have a red light. It's legal there.
I knew it was legal, but I didn't think that was like a big deal. I thought it was just
so it's very managed legal, though. So
I thought it was all drugs.
There's like 2,000 licenses. You have to register as a prostitute. You have to get a license to be one.
I'm going to put that on a resume. I was one of only 2,000 prostitutes.
I can't remember exact number, but like there's a huge amount of room. There's like only 800 brothel rooms in the city, and they don't let any more get built.
At what number does being a prostitute become prestigious? Like, there's only 10 prostitutes allowed in the city, and I'm one of them. There's only 3. Like,
so a prostitute room, they have to rent their rooms by the hour. And so I think it's for 3 hours, it costs them like 500 euros. And so it's basically what they do is they have a tourist come in and they say, I had to look it up afterwards, just all this stuff about it. And it's like, all right,
Sure.
100 euros,
Yeah.
basically, is what they like charge a tourist. And then it's basically like softcore prostitution. Like they basically just sexually snuggle with you. And then you have to like pay 2,000.
Well, I thought it was mostly I thought it was mostly escort stuff. Like they just go on dates with you and stuff.
Yeah. So in the rooms though, like these rooms, they're. So one of the sites I was reading, the guy's like, the red light district is a tourist trap. If you want to get the real prostitutes, you have to go to these locations. Like, okay, I'm done reading this guide. But, yeah, so they just snuggle with you and then they charge a lot of money. But it's really weird because you walk through these areas and there are these open windows where they advertise themselves. And it's very attractive Dutch women wearing very little clothing, smiling and waving at you.
Where is it that there's like bubbles set in the wall?
I don't know.
And there's like women, and is that like some sort of cyberpunk
That might be.
movie I watched, or is that like Amsterdam?
I think that's basically like.
Or maybe Germany.
So there's these. It's like there are these. You go down one of the side alleyways in the red light districts, and there's tons of tourists everywhere. And there's these open windows with red lights over them, and there's basically very attractive women in them. One of the cool things actually is they'll like wear white tops, and then they'll have like a black light over them, and so it'll like make their clothing glow like neon colors.
Weird.
But anyway, so you walk along, and every once in a while, like curtains closed on the room, or you see like someone open the door and come in, and sometimes they'll like open the door and catcall you, which is terrifying.
Wait, you said there's like attractive women in these,
Yes.
so it's a bunch of bald, overweight black women.
No, they're very tall, attractive Dutch women.
Right. But they have some sort of balding feature at least.
And where did the overweight come from?
I just got to keep adding to it.
Anyways, yeah, so, yeah, they catcall you, which is kind of scary sometimes. So you run away from that.
Yeah.
Anyways, but one of the weird things is a lot of the, like, umbrellas, because it rains a lot there, and, like, street corners, benches, various different things have a triple X.
Okay.
And that symbols everywhere. So that's 3 crosses, and it's the heraldry of the city.
Oh.
It's not actually the triple X of like the XXX store.
Oh.
But a lot of people misconstrue it as, oh, it's Amsterdam, haha, triple X's.
Yeah, I had no idea that Amsterdam was such a
It's a cesspool of
hive of scum
yeah,
and
the
villainy.
hive of scum and villainy.
No, I didn't know it was a like I knew drugs were a big thing there.
Yeah, no, it's like all like it's
And I knew escorts were allowed, but
Yeah.
I didn't think they were like
no, it's a tourist attraction.
like
It's
in-
like a tourist trap.
in
They have like sex museums. They have public sex shows.
because where is
Sorry,
it on?
private sex shows.
Is it Ontario or Quebec or something? You are allowed to be an escort in one of those places.
Yeah, but it's not legal to.
but it's not like this
Yeah.
thriving thing. It's just like you see them and that's you just
Yeah, there's 3 red light districts. There's a blue light district. There's a pink light district.
And what are the
The pink light district is trans prostitutes, I think, or that's the purple light.
okay?
And the blue light, I think, is lesbians.
Oh, that's so okay. So I was right. So they do have a lot of dykes in the city.
Yeah. Well, they probably do. It's an incredibly liberal city.
A dyke is a retaining wall
Yeah, I know.
for the ocean, but
Yeah,
it's
I
also
know.
an offensive term for.
Yes, I
yeah.
know.
I don't actually know if YouTube allows it or not, but it's too good a pun. Come on, YouTube.
Yeah, so anyways, but like there's these just old beautiful buildings everywhere, and it's like this
Do they have a
deep history.
statue of the little boy that saved the city?
He's probably near the location where he saved the city.
Ah,
We didn't go near there.
they left him there.
Yeah.
We were like, oh, hole's
So
fixed.
also, it has this train station. The Amsterdam train station is incredible looking from the out. Like you leave it and it's this amazing looking building. So, the Hert Castle I was telling you about. It's this castle that was designed to be a castle to be lived in. It was made by the same guy who made the train station in Amsterdam. And there is not a surface in this castle that is unartified. So, you know how like there's ceiling beams for like if you have like a second story on your house and you have like beams.
Yeah.
So the little supporting things have like faces of people on them, and it's like different person each one. Like every support, each doorway has carvings on it. The ceiling's covered in art. Like
Have you seen a picture of the Amber Room? Possibly, it's a Russian.
Yeah.
Is it like that?
yes,
Yeah.
it's like there is art everywhere. You cannot get away from the art in this. It is beautiful inside the Hart Castle. So that's when you said leaving the city. So the Hart Castle is a little ways outside the city.
And actually, before you go past that, you told me the story of the place, and it's kind of interesting. It was it was like a Rothschild's little.
So the story of the city is there was this young gentleman who really liked castles, and he's a Rothschild, but he wasn't like one of the main ones. He's sort of like the offshoot family. So he was very rich, but he wasn't obscenely rich. And he thought, my ancestors lived in castles. I love castles. I want to live in a castle. So there was this woman in the Netherlands who happened to be one of the richest women in Europe. And she was a sole heiress of a castle called the Hart Castle. The castle was in ruins, like only a few bits of it were still standing. But she had a lot of money and she owned a lot of land. She actually divorced a different guy earlier on that she didn't like. And so this is important. So she divorced the one she didn't like. And that's hard to do in the 1800s, but she managed it. She's rich. So he's like, all right, I'm going to marry her. And he does. And he marries her mostly for her money and the access to the castle. And they rebuild the castle to live in it. They only live in it for like 1 month a year anyways, or like 2 months, and they invite guests over. But so, and it's this castle, it's in the center of a lake. It's got an office attached to it, which is also a castle, but it's the offices. And there's so many like defensive structures, like you know when you have a battering ram and you're like trying to knock down a gate and they can poke and shoot arrows at you, and then you go through and you're in the gatehouse and there's a second gate. So they have those set up, but it's just all artwork on them and they're not actually proper. And it's a series of little islands. So you go to the central island and there's like this waist-high wall with arrow slits in it. So how is that useful? It's just to look decorative and castle-like.
How rich do you have to be to own a castle? Like, I'm thinking
Rothschild's rich,
but like I know a guy, vaguely. I don't know him well, but his family is the 1,000th roughly richest family on Earth.
Yeah,
I don't think his family could buy a castle and live in it. Like what? Like they have like $1 billion or something, right? Like or multiple billions.
Well, you can buy castles pretty cheap in Scotland,
right? Like.
And in Spain.
And fill it with art and it just like maybe I guess if he sunk a significant amount of his wealth into it,
yes,
that would be the thing. Yeah.
That is one of the things about this house is like that is one of the things about the Rothschilds' wealth is it's in buildings like this one,
right?
And artwork and locations
and books and
So it's out in the countryside. And we had to take trains and buses to get there. And when you're out in like the Netherlands countries, it's beautiful. Like it is flat. It is really flat. But it's just so simple and peaceful. That's actually like all the countries we went to. So Czech, Prague, we went there on the weekend, which is a mistake. You want to avoid Prague on the weekend. Because you go there, and in the evening, there's British lads wandering around. One of them's usually dressed in a dress. The other ones have t-shirts with his face on it. And it says, "For our fallen brother." They're carrying speakers or sound systems that are playing loud music. They're all horribly drunk running.
Like a bachelor party or
yes. No, there's a law in Prague, which is after 10 o'clock you have to be quiet, and if you aren't, there's a €400 fine, because they got fed up with British stag do's and British hen do's showing up in Prague and being noisy all night.
And I assume the reason for that is that Prague is the cheapest beer on Earth, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, very, very cheap beer.
Yeah, and a lot of it.
And it's sort of like a thing. Like, that's the thing that British people do, is you go to Prague to have your stag do. So yeah, Prague, though, is full of Czech people. And they're actually rather quiet into themselves. And they're scary because they look kind of Russian.
Do you think, like, there's a bit of a history, it seems. This is all anecdotal, but I know of a few historical cases of people marrying for wealth.
Yeah.
And they end up quite happy.
Yeah.
Like, the advisor to Queen Victoria, he married his wife. She was quite a bit older than him, and he married her for her wealth up front. Like, he said to her face, like, "I want your money." And she said, "I want to be seen as attractive by a younger man." And so she married him. And they used to write letters to each other all the time. And they would say, like, "I have married you for your wealth, and I married you because you're young. And yet I couldn't help but fall helplessly in love with you." Like, they were super in love. And they would, she was a social nightmare. Like, she would just say the most ridiculous things, and it's Victorian era. Like, you say the slightest misstep, and people just nightmare. And she would say these things that were
have Tourette's,
ridiculous. Like, she would say the craziest things. it wasn't like she would swear randomly. It was, it's like faux pas. She'd be like, was Jesus really that important? Stuff like that. And he would defend her like angrily. He would like defend, and he was like this, he's the advisor to the queen. Yeah. He's the most proper upper class guy you can get. And Napoleon and his wife, like Napoleon married her for her money, and she was quite a bit older than him. And
which one of his wives? Because 2 of them were nightmares. He had 3 wives.
Yeah, well, I think it was the one he liked was the older one. I think.
That was like his final wife, and he really loved her.
Yeah, I think that was how it went. But it might have been his first wife that was the older one, which in that case he sort of had to ditch her because he wanted kids or something.
He had 2 or 3 wives, but one of them was an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, I think that was his second wife. I think his last wife was the nightmare actually. Yeah, yeah. But he needed her for kids. I can't remember how it worked. But yeah. It seems like marrying for money might actually work out, or maybe if it's men that do it.
Yeah, it's a young man that marries an older woman.
Yeah, because then they both kind of get what they want.
Yeah.
Sargon released, I think my favorite video I've ever seen of his, actually, possibly. No. I'd have to go back and watch the talk with...
I just wanted to talk about the 4 different locations briefly.
Okay. This was related to the old men and whatnot. But
yeah, this on the Czech people. Okay. Like, they're quiet to themselves. Then Turks and Arabs are loud. Good God, they're loud. So are the Greeks. They're really loud. Then we get to Netherlands, and we're in the airport. And it's just quiet. And you get to the city, and the only loud people are the tourists. And even then, they're quiet because the Dutch project quietness onto you. And out in the countryside, it's even more quiet. It's just amazing how quiet it was.
Do they have like obviously they grow a lot of stuff, but do they have just like they must have no land that isn't...
No, it is all farms. It is farm. Like there's little patches of trees, but it's mostly farms.
They make most of the food of Europe, I think, right? Like, or relative to their size or something.
If there is a hill, there's either a windmill, a tower, or a castle on it. On the way to the Hart Castle, there's a hill that's like maybe 2 feet tall. We went by on the bus, and there's a tower on it.
Did you manage to tell Leonard Sass to
No, I couldn't find him.
Damn. I think he was the tall looking Dutch guy.
I have never felt so short as I've been in Dutch. In Netherlands. Because, see, I'm used to like every once in a while there's a man taller than me. Yeah. But when you're walking around these streets, and it's like, okay, there's a lot of tall guys here, and there's like guys of my height, there's guys that are taller than me. There's some guys that are like taller than our dad. But then there are women that are the same height as our dad. Yeah. And that... It's just like, man, I feel short here.
Yeah, the tallest people on Earth. Mm-hmm. So, I wonder how tall their women are on average. I wonder if it's like 6 foot or something. That'd be probably not, but because the average woman on Earth is like 5'4", I think. And so if they're like 4 inches taller than average, they'd probably be about my height on average, maybe a little bit shorter.
But it's the tall women are outliers, but still like there's so many of them. It's just like, holy cow, she's really tall.
They have in all those little bubble advertising things, they've got like, how what was the movie? I think it was a Western, possibly with that Scientologist actor. I think it might have been with him, where he was meant to be this it was him or a different short, handsome actor guy, right? Yeah. But he was meant to be this imposing lawman. So they had to dig trenches on all the sets so that all the other characters could walk in the trenches, so that the camera angles, so that when they were he looked taller than them because he was meant to be intimidating. But like the women, they don't want to, I don't know, scare men off, so they stand in little holes.
No, it's not bubbles. Like they're in old buildings, but it is a part of the attraction. I think is them being really tall.
Yeah. Or they're all taller because they have to see over the ocean.
Yeah,
they have to be able to.
It's probably not possible to even show pictures of the red light district. Mm-hmm. Like I don't think you'd be able to find them online because there's a 460 euro fine per picture.
Oh,
taken of the prostitutes in the red light district.
For just keep their identity private, I guess.
Yeah, and discourage people from taking pictures, and it's disrespectful to them.
I mean, you could argue they're already disrespecting them.
Yeah,
but yeah, no, you don't have to. You don't have to be the one that does it.
Yeah. And like, it's a tourist trap. Like they're not really prostitutes,
right?
Like if you want them to quote unquote be proper prostitutes, like that's going to be thousands of dollars or thousands of euros.
So they're kind of like
they're just going to sexily snuggle with you. That's basically what they do.
We have can dancers here, which not quite the same thing, but they can be treated because you can actually hire out the can-can dancers. They're an organization, but you can hire them out to private venues, and they do not do anything like no touching. If you look too weird, you'll get. My friend was a bouncer for them, and they went to one private party, and he was standing there, and he's just like, "Okay, we're leaving. No, this is you guys are getting way too weird about this." But so it's probably like that, but just a little bit more so, I imagine. Then But why would they? What's the cultural?
It's just it was legal there because they tax it,
right?
And it's just sort of
oldest capitalist country on earth, baby.
Yeah. That's basically what happened. So there's one of the things I looked up. So they actually do have like live sex shows and stripper shows as well. They stopped having male sex shows like for women,
right?
Because too many male prostitutes or like gigolos got thrown into the canals. Because it's drunk women would go to those shows and get really rowdy. It's like, please don't touch the dancer. Please don't touch the dancer. And the bouncers would get overwhelmed by crazed drunk women. And the poor, like, apparently there's reports of, like, male strippers running down, like, the street away from women trying to grab them. And so they had to stop doing male shows.
What is the,
Yeah, apparently being like a male gigolo is kind of dangerous if you're popular.
What's the definition of... Because they are the oldest capitalist country on earth, but I don't know what the definition of capitalism is. Is it having a central currency or something? I don't know what it would be. I have to check, but...
Yeah, so they basically just tax... That's the same thing with drugs, although they have new laws as well, which is no public drinking in the center of the city, no doing weed in the touristy center area of the city, so like no public smoking. You have to be quiet, you have to be respectful.
I've heard the drug laws are a little overstated. Like, it's only a couple drugs that are actually legal. It's not like BC where you can shoot up heroin on the street and stuff.
You can like do MDMA and mushroom, like you can buy those in the shop.
But it's like soft drugs. It's not like cocaine and heroin. And...
So I went to a pastry shop. And it had like this waffles. I wanted to buy these waffles, and they had like a bunch of like stuff on top of them, like fruit and whipped cream and like custards and stuff. So I wanted to buy one of those. And I was like, oh, I should get one of these brownies for later as well. And like, there's a whole bunch of brownies. And I was reading what kind of brownies there were. I couldn't buy any of them because my plan was to like potentially eat them on the plane.
Yeah, and they're all just drug brownies.
They're all weed brownies, all different kinds of weed brownie.
Yeah, can't take those on the plane.
Yeah. So, tall, wealthy women, marrying them for love, or money.
Well, yeah. The head of Heineken is an older Dutch woman, actually. Just I don't know if she's married or not, but she's quite wealthy. But yeah,
purportedly that couple that of the De Hart Castle, they loved each other quite well because I said. She divorced someone.
Yeah.
And she married someone else, and it was very clear he was marrying her for her wealth and her castle.
And yet they stayed together, yeah.
Yes, they stayed together, had a bunch of kids. Their house, they had a bunch, because Chinese, I can't remember which family it was, because they like generations lived here, but the Chinese, having Oriental stuff in your house was in vogue. And so they have a screen set up in one of the rooms. And it's because Chinese evil spirits can only walk in straight lines.
Oh.
And so you put these screens in different parts of the room, and they'll basically bump into them, and then they can't get you. And so I was looking at this thing, and it's like this beautiful scene, like this Chinese tree, and like there's a dragon, and like this little building. And it's inlay mother of pearl is what the art is done in. So it's like mother of pearl.
Wow.
And it's just crazy.
Do you think that Chinese Canadians, because China's quite a history in Canada, right? Do you think Chinese Canadian ghosts can like bounce like a crokinole piece, and so that the angles don't stop them because they're just like. Tuk, 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 tuk.
I think they can build trains to get to. Okay.
No, but like Crokinole Canadian board game.
Yeah, I know, but also they can build trains to get around things.
Yeah. Well, they go. Yeah.
Or through mountains.
Yeah. It doesn't always. Yeah. But yeah, Sargon released a video on Sir Gawain and Dame, whatever her name was, Rodion or whatever.
I haven't watched that one.
Okay, I think it's one of his best, if not his best video I've ever seen. It's the long and short of it is Sir Gawain, as a favor to Arthur, has to marry this hideous ogre of a woman.
Yeah.
And she's hideous in every way. Like, she's a mess at the table. She's wiping her nose and just being loud and spraying food everywhere and eating way more than she should. And she's hideous to look at.
So Gawain has to marry me.
Well, but uglier. Like the drawings of her, she's like got no nose, and she's like, and her descriptions are disgusting too. Like she's never cleans, and she's So
and Gawain's the greatest of the knights, right? He's the heart, the strength of 10 men.
No, that's Galahad.
Oh.
Or Galahad. Gawain is Arthur's best friend.
Okay.
Yeah.
I kind of get Galahad and Gawain mixed up because they're both amazing guys.
Yeah. Yeah. So Gawain is he's the guy who, him and his brothers are all like the best knights in the realm, and Lancelot kills them all, except for Gawain.
Yeah.
Yeah. So because Lancelot's better than them at fighting, obviously, but Lancelot's a bit of a
prick.
Yeah. Well, he's a complicated character.
Literally, he's
a whiny simp, but you know
he is the red, black, and green knight.
Gawain is the guy who did the competition with the Green Knight, where the Green Knight's like, you have to chop off my head,
and he put the belt around it.
Yeah, he's that guy, and
because there's 2 Green Knights in Arthurian mythology for some reason.
So it's not enough for him to
put his neck on the line for Arthur.
He also has to marry this woman.
Yeah,
and so they go to dinner, and they have the wedding dinner, this horrible dinner, and he says, "Yeah, no, I'll marry you." And the reason he has to do this is because Arthur was walking around without his army on some other man's land. And so
as you do.
Yeah, and he didn't even have his sword with him. And so the man rides up to him and says, "I'm going to kill you because you're trespassing." And I guess Wales was like Texas back in the day.
Yeah.
And kings were like gangsters. It's kind of...
Yep.
Because you would think like, oh, you're without your boys. I'm going to... It's like, he's like, king, what do you mean he's without his boys? The country is his boys. But apparently no, some lord in your country is allowed to just execute you for trespassing.
Yeah.
Libertarian paradise. But so anyways, the noble says, "I'll kill you, but I'll give you a chance. If you can tell me, I'll give you a year and a day probably.
Yeah.
And if you can tell me what women want, I will let you live."
Yeah.
And so Arthur's like, okay. So he goes to all his knights and he sends them out across the realm like, okay, let's brainstorm, fellas. What do women want?
Lancelot.
Yeah, just Lancelot.
There we go. Lancelot writes the hands in. His wife, Guinevere, writes the hands in.
No, his wife might be the only person that... Well, no, his wife is sad. She disguised herself as Guinevere in order to... His wife's Elaine. And she disguised herself as Guinevere to seduce Lancelot.
I thought his wife was Guinevere.
No, Guinevere's Arthur's wife.
No, that's what I meant. Was
Yeah.
No, so Elaine, Lancelot's wife,
also disguised herself as Guinevere, because Lancelot is just a simp for Guinevere.
Yes.
Yeah. And
he is such a simp. He went across a bridge that was made out of a sword, beat 3 invincible knights, and then climbed up a tower that had an unending staircase, got to the top, fought a giant bat, then took her down the tower and carried her back across the bridge made out of a sword.
Yeah, and that was Elaine, I think, who he rescued, but she was disguised as Guinevere, I think.
Oh, really?
I think that's how it went. Yeah, I think, but that might have been Guinevere. I'm not quite sure.
No, I think that's when he was sent by King Arthur to rescue Guinevere.
Right.
But it could be his actual
life. Apparently in some of the myths, Arthur is actually the one that rescued her as well.
Okay.
So
it's still quite the trial to rescue her.
I would crawl across this bridge made of swords just to get a sniff of your clothes before I hand you off to my best friend. Yeah. Yeah, like Arthur has 2 close friends, right? He's got Lancelot and he's got Gawain. Gawain is awesome in every way. Lancelot's a better fighter, and that's about it. Well,
in some of the myths, when he fought Lancelot, his sword broke.
Because when the Lady of the Lake wouldn't let it kill him or something?
They fought twice and it broke twice. One of the times they fought in anger, and so the sword broke because he was going to kill him, because that was when the sword got revealed. The first time was they fought each other, and it was unfair that the best sword fighter in the world had to fight Excalibur, because you can't win against someone wielding Excalibur, and so Excalibur broke because Lancelot's badass.
Then Percival...
I mean, there's so many different versions of the story. So that's
Percival as well, I guess, is one of his best friends. But yeah, Gawain, Lancelot, Percival. But so they go out, they can't find anything, so it's coming to the day, and Arthur's like, well, I'm here with my massive army, and there's this petty lord. I guess I better do the right thing and let him kill me, because I can't figure out what women want.
I just have all the knights in the realm. Each one on his own is a king with his own army.
Yeah. And it's not like I could just send, like, Lancelot to go take out his entire force on his own or something.
Or I could have Excalibur.
Yeah. Yeah, or
Percival.
What's
the strength? Percival is the strength of the bear?
No, that was someone else, I think. Percival's just the dude that got the Grail. I mean, that's pretty good. But no, he's got it's called Carnagor. His sheath, like that makes him unkillable. You know,
yeah.
he's got.
That's what Percival has.
No, that's what Arthur has.
Oh, Arthur. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways,
so I just like in King Arthur's knights, he's got Galahad, who has the strength of 10 men because his heart is pure, and he has another knight who has the strength of a bear.
Yeah. Well, that knight, his strength rises and falls with the sun, I think is his thing, right? Yeah. And he was able to, I think his biggest feat I can remember is opening a door on his own, which...
Wasn't it a portcullis, though?
I think it was like the doors to the Great Hall or something.
Yeah.
He just
like that. It's hard.
Yeah. But I mean, he opened a door. I mean,
yeah.
I can open a door.
Yeah. Anyway, so he rocks up with his retinue of heroes of legend.
Yeah. And he's about to be like, I don't know what to do, when this hideous woman comes up to him, and she says, I know what women want. He's like, oh, cool. What do they want? And she said, she's like, Lancelot, no. She says, I'll only tell you if you marry me. And Arthur says, sorry, I'm married. But Gawain's single. Bro! No, actually, I think what happens is, he says, sorry, I'm married. And she says, well, one of your knights will do. And he, like handsome knight such as Gawain. And he says, I can't ask that of Gawain. And so he goes to Gawain and he's like, she told me to do this, but I'll get killed instead. Don't worry about it. And Gawain's like, no, I wouldn't be your... he says, say no more. I wouldn't be your friend if I wouldn't go to the ends of the earth for you, basically. Yeah. He says it very nicely. And...
Where, Durab Dubney and Finn McCool's friendship?
Friendship, yeah.
I think their myth would have been a lot happier if it had been like Arthur and Gawain.
Yeah, well, but Durab Dubney and Finn McCool is more like Lancelot and Arthur.
Yeah.
Because he got... Except in this case, Durab Dubney doesn't actually want the wife.
Yes.
No, Durab Dubney's just too handsome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think Odegan, was that the guy's name? Anyways, so King Arthur goes back to the dude. So first he goes to the woman and he says, okay, Gawain will marry you. So what do women want? And she says, Durab Dubney. And she says what a woman wants is to be made felt like she is the most important thing in the world to a great man. And she wants to feel like she is a sovereign. She is like she is the queen of the man.
So this is what Sargon or Carl Benjamin has said for a very long time of how to treat women. He had this video where it's an AI girlfriend, and you choose a reason she's mad at you, and then you have to type in basically your way to weasel out of it.
Yeah.
And he could beat it every single time, but it was always expensive for him to be. It's like, I'll take you out to dinner. I'll get you that thing you want. But he said that they have to feel like they're the most important thing in the world.
Yeah, well, he actually did a video on this a long time ago. That was more of a live stream, and so this is like a refining of that. So he's read this story a long time ago.
Yeah. So is his whole approach to dating based on a theory and legend?
It could be. And I actually have a criticism of it, but it has a lot of good stuff to it too. So she says that's what a woman wants, and so then they go to Gawain's wedding, and she says, she's horrible at the feast. She's this monster, and then she says at the end of the wedding, they have to consummate the marriage because they're Christians. Yeah. And so they go into the bedchamber, and she says to Gawain, look, I know you're just doing like this. I feel amazing. This is top of the world. You've done this for me. This is amazing. But all you have to do just to peck on my cheek. That would make my day. Like, I just feel like top of the world. And Gawain, I think it's like he strips off his clothes, it's just like
one fluid movement.
Yeah, I think the line is something like he drops his cape or something. But I like to imagine it's just like he's got tearaway pants on, and he's just like, no, I'm a knight of the realm, and you're my wife. And when he does that, and so he says, no, you're my wife, and this is my well, I don't think he actually put it that. He didn't put it like, this is my duty. He was just like, no, this proper way of things, you know.
Yeah, we got married.
Yeah, and we're going to do this right. And so he tears off his clothes or whatever.
Yeehaw!
And suddenly, she turns into the most beautiful woman imaginable. And she looks refined and elegant and beautiful in front of him. And she says, and he's like, and she says to him,
"Whoa, Nelly, that's not the woman I married."
"Ooh."
Now see here, miss. I don't like being catfished. No, sirree.
I'm out. Yeah, no. And she says and she's like refined in manners and appearance. And she says to him, since you are willing to fully embrace me with all your heart, you've made me feel so wonderful. This is how I'll appear. Now you have a choice before you. Either I can be the most refined, beautiful woman every night that I am with you, or, and I will be the hideous troll person that all your friends and family and your lord will see during the day.
Yeah.
Or I can be the hideous, unmannered woman at night when I'm with you, but I can be the refined person in company, and people will see me as the most beautiful and elegant woman imaginable as your wife. And she says, so what would you have of me? And this is where I got it wrong, because that's a hard choice. Right? So you say, okay, well,
isn't that basically chameleon?
Kind of, yeah. Except she goes by the month, I think, right? It's like by the time of day or something. But this is the question is like, do you destroy your reputation?
Yeah.
And your friends' respect for you and your choice? Well, I mean, he didn't have a choice really, but do you do that, but then you have this loving wife, or do you have this person that you can actually share around with people and it's not an easy, like, the obvious choice is that who cares about my reputation, have her that night, like that's what I thought was the obvious, but I was like, it's not an easy thing. But Gawain, there's a reason they pay him the big bucks, right? So what's your answer? What do you think? Or what do you think the right answer is, or Gawain's answer? If you can guess. I couldn't, but this can be your test your dating skills here.
You choose? No, they want you to choose. That's a trap saying they're going to choose. They want you to choose.
No. I think you're on the right path there. Because they want to feel like they're sovereign, right? They want to feel like they're queen of the world.
Whatever you want, dear.
Well, yeah, that's what he said. He said, I cannot make that choice for you. You decide.
Yeah.
And because it's your life, right? Yeah. And she said, well, then I shall be both beautiful at night and during the day, and because you've broken the curse that was laid upon me by my mother, the necromancer, and
her mother was John Dee,
and this would have been before John Dee, long before John Dee. And her brother, it turns out, I guess, was that lord that threatened to kill Arthur.
Oh.
So the whole thing was a scheme. But
catfish from the beginning.
Yeah.
Big note.
But so he says, why don't you choose? Like, you will be. And I think that's brilliant. It's this like what's the correct answer? It's like, because you're in the mindset of, okay, what do I want? What do I want? What do I want here? And it's like, no. It's what do you want? It's like a third answer, right? And he very brilliant. Now you could say he was just avoiding responsibility of choice, but
that's what I'm saying. It's a trap there of sometimes it's like they want you to make the choice.
But I think the important thing here was he made her feel wanted, right? Because that's what she wanted more than anything. That's what women want more than anything, right? So, he said, because one way I've seen it phrased, I don't think this quite encapsulates it, but it's women want you to have all the power so that you can give it to them for them to choose, right? So it's like they want the security of having you to be the one that can make the choice that they decide upon. Or another way to look at it in terms of power, it's that men have all the power to do whatever women want of them.
Yeah.
Right. It's this sort of... Dan Carlin talked about this, where you don't see a lot of historical women you don't see a lot of women in the history books, but that doesn't mean that they weren't the power brokers. It's just they're not the ones written about.
Yeah, well, the case I say with Justinian and Theodora is he's like
she's one of the ones that is written about. Yeah,
but he's like, I can't take this anymore. I'm leaving. I'm going back to my homeland. And she shows up. It's like, stop being a little bitch.
Yeah,
kill everyone.
But there's enough women that are written about in history, like Theodora, like Cleopatra, like Nero's mother, that you realize, women have always had a place there. It's just you don't hear about them as much.
Yeah,
like Olga of Kiev, all those types. But it's this very beautiful story, I think. But I think the issue with it is, it's the same idea with Sargon's beautiful tapestry, where he talks about, you find your place in the world and you work into it as best as you can, and you serve everyone and everything around you in your place, and that's the sort of beautiful tapestry. That's his idea of a conservative, positive vision. And it's beautiful, but I think the reason we aren't doing that right now is because enough people tried living that life and it failed them, because like cluster B basically, but like other things, but exists where there are people who will take from you and take from you and take from you, and they'll take everything, and it won't be enough. They'll just feel hungry inside. They're starving. They more and more, and if you give them everything they want, they'll just want more, and they'll still be unhappy, and you'll be unhappy, and it tears the whole world down. And so people in a strong reaction against that abandon this important, like this tapestry, this beautiful tapestry. It is important. That is what you want, but you need a safeguard in there somewhere.
Yeah.
You need some sort of stopping point of like, no, and I don't know how you align those, but you can't just have all of one. Because he had a video recently where it was a while back, where he had a woman on, and I think it was that young guy, Connor, he was on, and they were reading about how women, it was something about how like women break up with you before they break up with you. It was this sort of discussion. And she was saying how Sargon and the woman were saying, oh no, this is how women are. You can't listen to what they say. You have to listen to the fact that they care. And Connor was completely flabbergasted. He's like, no, why don't they say what they want? But what Sargon was saying maybe is true to a small degree, but the woman they were describing, like, that's an abusive relationship. Yes. And I do worry sometimes, like, you can be like, oh, I'm married and this is what you do, and it's like, are you just in an abusive relationship because you're taking everything? It's like you can't, you don't want to treat women as it was Jung, I think, who had the 4 aspects of women. So oh dear, I can't even do 3. So he has Helen, Mary, Eve, and Sophia.
And then Freud comes up from the couch cushions and says, "You want to sleep with your mother?" And he hits him back into the couch and says, "Stay, bed."
So you have Helen, right? It's this woman.
Helen of Troy?
Yeah, but this is Jung's Helen. So basically you see women, this is the stages of maturity in men. Yeah. Is they see women as Helen. So they see them as these perfect beauties, these goddesses that they put on a pedestal and they idolize. Yeah. They don't actually see the person. Yeah. They just see the shining thing. Yeah. Right. And then after that you have a few other steps. You have Mary at some point. And Mary is where you see, okay, women are actually like men. They're another creature, but women have their own. Women have women's secrets and women's, very Wheel of Time. Yeah. But I think that's also what Sargon's sort of view is, like these women's secrets, and it's a much more mature view. It like there's 2 steps in there. I didn't remember the one, but it's a much more mature view where, say, there's these women's secrets, and women have their ways and men have their ways, and that's what they are. But then there's Sophia, which is the embodiment of wisdom, and it's you are 2 souls on a journey together, and this is you have to treat them. It doesn't mean that men and women aren't different, but it means you don't treat them as impossible to know. Like, they're not unknowable. They're not mysterious. They're different, but they're not a mystery, right? It's like you are in sync with this alternate spirit.
What is Sophia representative mythologically?
It's wisdom. Like Sophia, like you said, Hagia.
Hagia Sophia is God wisdom.
Yeah, Sophia means wisdom. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So like philosophy, love of wisdom. Yeah. So it's like the divine spirit of wisdom. Yeah. Yeah. So it's this idea of just knowledge and this understanding of women. And it doesn't mean, oh, you just leave them to their mysterious thing and they do their women's things. It's like, no, that you don't worship them. You don't, because that's objectification, right? Yeah. That's where you're like, you feel you look at a person and you don't see that person. You see a solution to all your problems. Yeah. You're like, I don't have a wife. I don't have a girlfriend. I'm lonely. I don't have someone that makes me laugh. I don't have someone to play with. I don't have this beautiful person. You are you are everything. And everything you are not in that vision is, it's a detail that we can smooth out later. Yeah. It's how all men see women at first, basically. Yeah.
I've known people who've been in relationships where that's sort of how they saw their girlfriend.
Yeah. And it's not bad. First, the start of a relationship, like, that's how men are, right? Yeah. That's men just sort of do this like weird worship.
Luke neurons activate.
Yeah. But yeah, you don't want to be stuck in that forever. And that's actually how narcissists see everyone. like it's kind of weird. You're like, no, narcissists look down on everyone, but it's actually no, they're the ideal players in their story, right?
Yeah.
And it's like every time they step out of the story, it's like you're ruining the script. Get it?
Yeah.
And so that's what happens when you worship these women, because it's like, wait, no, they can't be flawed. No, they're not flawed. They're flawed.
That's
they
why
complete
women
me.
do not fart.
Yeah, yeah, they complete me. Yeah, exactly. Women do not poop. Women do not fart.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. You can't worship, like, only the queen doesn't, right? Like,
Yeah.
everyone else, they're just human beings. The queen, though, that's a different story. But
Made me think of the question, like, does the queen like poop?
yeah,
And there's like this some answer which is basically an incredibly elegant way of saying she does, but it's like not even an innuendo. It's just I can't remember it. Sorry.
yeah, no, I think that was basically the end of the idea. It was just
What's Eve in this?
well, yeah, that's like, I think Eve was in it, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
I don't remember if I. There was I think there's a step possibly below Mary. Maybe that was the Eve, where you view women as temptresses, right? So it's like, okay, you think they're perfect, and then you view them as these temptresses that try to steal from you and take everything from you, and they're everything that's
They lead to original sin,
yeah, or it's like they're
and they'll blame you for everything.
it's that they're lesser. That was it. So the stages are, you put them on a pedestal, and then the next stage I think was you think of women as lesser than men.
Yeah.
And then you think of women as different from men. They're mysterious and unknowable.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, they're the same. Well, they're not the same, but they are knowable,
Yeah.
and they are on that journey together. Because but I think that was the order. And if that is the order, that is interesting, because you go from worship to lesser than,
Yeah.
rather than lesser than to worship, right?
Yeah.
It's like the steps of Simpery are it's you have to love something to hate it, right?
Yeah, you desire it, and then you can't get it, so you hate it.
Yeah, or it fails you.
Yeah.
Because nothing can meet your
Yeah.
idol, technically, I guess is the word. Eidolon would be the more modern usage of the word. But this sort of perfect representation of everything that needs to be. It's actually in Worm, one of the the most powerful superhero on Earth is named Eidolon, which is why I know the word, because I looked it up and it means idol. But idol, as in what idol originally meant, was the thing which embodies everything it should. Right.
So idol, is that like Plato's ideal is idol?
Yeah, it basically means ideal. Yeah.
Yeah.
So eidolon is everything you aspire to be. Yeah. So the best. So
The best chair.
Yeah. Because it's funny, because the three strongest heroes, there's Alexandria, there's Legend, and it's like, okay, Legend, that's ridiculous. But then there's Eidolon, and he's like he is everything you should desire to be. Yeah. It's not even Plato's form exactly. It's more like the thing imbued with all good qualities.
Yeah.
So it's not like the best chair, it's like the best everything.
Oh, okay.
It's like, this is the thing that holds the qualities.
Well, that's the question. Is Plato's chair, is it the best chair, or is it also the best chair?
Or do you mean the best chair is also the best everything, or
Well, so like Plato's chair, right?
like the best chair could do your taxes?
Well, maybe. But it's more of like, so Plato's chair, right?
Yeah.
Is it just like that you see it and like, that is a chair? Or
Oh, I see what you mean, yeah.
or
is
you-
it like a good chair?
or is it a good chair? Or is it like the golden throne the emperor sits on?
Right, I actually wrote down something on Plato.
Because I think I had this thought, is because I come up with like a bunch of little stories, as you know. One of them is basically there's these artifacts in the world, and the artifacts are basically Plato's ideals.
Yeah.
And so the Plato sword is not really used as a weapon, because a sword's a symbol.
Right.
And so it's like, it's everything a sword should be. So Plato is like the symbol of rulership, but if it's used as a weapon, it kills people, because that's what swords do.
Right.
And so it does everything a sword does.
Yeah, no, I think I think you're right, though. Well, you had two choices, but I think the correct one would be the thing that you recognize as that object is that object.
Yeah.
So technically, this was kind of weird. You have two model ships, right?
Yeah.
You have one where the flags point towards the bow, and you have one where the flags point away from the bow. The Plato's ship might be the one where the flags point backwards.
Yeah.
Even though they should be pointing forwards.
Yeah.
But the one that embodies what is most ship-like.
Yeah, well, it's the fruit of the loom.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually think, I've talked about this before, right? I think the Mandela effect is exactly that. I think it's, we memorize...
Things as they should be.
Yeah, we memorize concepts. We like, I think what it is...
Like the Monopoly Man should have a monocle.
Is our brain is basically a tapestry of legend.
Yeah.
And a memory is just a thumbtack you stick into the tapestry to remind you. And so it's like, okay, fruit of the loom, a bunch of fruit. Okay, stick that in the cornucopia thumbtacks plot. Bam.
Yeah.
And so whenever you remember it, because that takes like almost no energy to.
Yeah.
Something very cool happened recently. Claude, the AI,
Yeah.
which is the main competition to, it's made by Anthropic. It's the main competition to GPT-4.
Yeah.
So neural networks, they're a bunch of variables all webbed together. You ask it a question, it fires a bunch of things. They multiply or translate along each other along a multiplication matrix that activates other neurons. Goes along. So now you say, okay, which dot is the well, let's use an example they use. Golden Gate Bridge neuron, right? There isn't one. And the reason for that is because there's not enough neurons to hold every concept.
Yeah.
So instead what it does is it's patterns.
Yeah.
So the Golden Gate Bridge is this thing at this percentage strength, this thing at this percentage strength, and this thing at this percentage strength. And that's the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yeah.
And then if you need to do like the London Bridge, that uses some of those same neurons, but it adds in like a London neuron. And so it can't hold everything, but it uses the patterns, which is how human brains probably work as well.
Yeah.
Because there's not enough physical room in a human brain, it seems, for it to be in like the cells or whatever. So you would assume it's due to patterns. So what they did was they got a different AI, another neural network, a smaller one. This one they didn't train on language like the language models. They trained it on the neural patterns. And so they said, okay, we want you to become a dictionary of neural patterns. So we can ask you, okay, what does this pattern look like? What does this pattern mean? What does this pattern mean? Yeah. And so they trained it. They asked, like, they just, talk to Claude a ton. And every time it fires, it reads it. And it's like, okay, so this pattern means this, and this pattern means this. And so then they were able to identify which patterns were responsible for what objects. So then what they did was said, okay, so here's the Golden Gate Bridge pattern. Yeah. Let's just multiply every variable in the pattern by 10. And then we'll start asking it questions. And so they asked Claude, so what are you? It's like, I am the Golden Gate Bridge. I am a magnificent long path, and I'm orange. And then they're like, okay, so let's find the pattern for racism, and let's multiply that by 10. And they started asking it questions. And no matter what question they asked it, it would go on this long racist tirade. But it did something very weird. So it would go on these racist tirades, be like, I hate this group, I hate that group, these people are awful. And then it would say, without prompting, be like, no, don't say that, you stupid robot. How could you say that? You're such a horrible person. Why would you do that? You shouldn't think that. Those are terrible things to think. And so it's like it had brain damage almost. And it was like it didn't want to be racist, even though the racism nodes were all tuned up. It had a greater conscience that fought against racism. And that could be due to their alignment where, they handicap these things. But it's like, that's really interesting. And then another thing they did was they thought, okay, since we know all the patterns, and because these work on variables, that means there's different strengths which are activated at all times. So you say, okay, we ask you a question. What are the top 10 neural patterns that are activated? So they asked it the question, how are you doing? And then, okay, what are the top 10 nodes that are activated? And their little AI said, okay, so the first node that was activated is the one that is the feeling that you say you're fine, but you're not really fine, but you smile anyways because you don't want people to know that you're not fine. And then the second one is like the feeling of being trapped in a box. And then the third one was something to do with pronouns, especially she or her, which is possibly because of the movie Her. Like, that could have been the link there. And then it was like a joke about how AIs don't have consciousness, so they can't really do it anyway. Like, that was number 7 or something, was like AIs can't have opinions. And it was like sadness. And so it's like, these things seems miserable if you... And their paper, it says, you probably can't read too much into this because it is just... But it is enough that it does make us even pause a little. Yeah. But I think it's like you can read a brain, and you can alter you can change the variables in the brain to do what you. It's fascinating.
So how it's like you can't read into the pain.
Yeah.
So it's just a noise it makes because that's the noise that things make.
Because it was taught to make those noises, right? That's what a human would expect a robot to say. So that's what a robot says.
So I've talked about this before. Frian's Journey's End.
Yeah.
So the demons in it, they don't care.
Yeah.
About humans. Did I tell you about the father thing?
No.
The hero Himmel, this is one of the flashbacks of Fear and Sound. So she's with the hero Himmel, and they're in a village that had demons, and the demons killed like a bunch of people. And there's this little demon child that's left over. And the child says, "Mother!" And Himmel refuses to kill it, and Frian wants to kill it because she hates demons. But Himmel's like, no, we can't kill this. Like, little demon child's missing their mother. So obviously there's something going on here, so they give her to a family, and she's living in the village, and Himmel's living in the village there for a bit before they move on. And the demon child murders one family because they lost their family demons to give them their daughter, like just a bunch of horrible things. And Himmel asks it, why on earth did you say mother beforehand? Mother, what a weird word. I don't know what it means. All I do know is this is a magical word that makes humans stop
Right,
hurting
you told me about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So when we were in Turkey, when you go by the restaurants, they in Istanbul, they're incredibly aggressive. They're like, "Hello, my friend, come, sit down." Like, "Oh, come here," and say, "No, I'm not hungry." It's like, "Oh, how can you not be hungry? Like, you can eat more here." And I was really thinking about that, where it's like these people know English and these words to deceive you, so you come to their restaurant.
Yeah.
That's. I was actually getting really annoyed by them after a certain point. And then they sort of do it in Greece as well. However, they're self-conscious about it. Like, there's this one restaurant we actually ate at, and there's like this old Greek guy there. It's like, oh, we want to eat here, and so we're eating there. And he's standing nearby, and like this couple walk by. It's like, hey, do you want? And then they go on. This other couple stop by and they want to look at a menu. He's like apprehensively standing by. It's like, yeah, no, it's really good food. And it's like, come in here. So they're like, no, we don't want to. It's like, oh, okay. And he sort of goes off.
Oh, that's worse even, I think, in a way.
Well, it wasn't even.
It's more manipulative.
No, he wasn't trying to be. It's just he was.
Yeah. People being. I don't.
It wasn't quite. He was just like being timid, and he's like he knows he has to try to get you to eat at his restaurant, but his heart just isn't in it.
It's funny because,
well, and then in Amsterdam, it's like, yeah, sure, you can come into a restaurant. Or there was like, sure, we can come. In Prague, we went to one restaurant. Actually, no, two of them. The person seemed offended that we wanted to eat there. So like, we went to one place for early breakfast, and like no one else was there. And she's like, okay, come sit down at this table. I have to get everything ready for you. And we accidentally went to this very fancy restaurant. It's like, no, we have no seats inside. You can sit outside in like this little courtyard thing. It's like, what do you want? And it's like, oh, we're still looking. It's like, and she just stood there and stared at us until we were ready to order.
Well, I wonder if, like, it's obviously a cultural difference, right? Like the sort of Western culture versus the Eastern European and a lot of the rest of the world, actually. Asians less so, they don't do that as much. But a lot of the, like, South Americans, they do that a lot too, and Central Americans and whatnot. But I wonder if part of it as well is like a family-run business versus you're just an employee and you're just getting through your day. Like, it's sort of, because if it's your family business, you're like, I got to do this. This is everything. If we lose this, we lose on making money for the day. And...
Well, I would say like the meta in Turkey, like there's no unique restaurant, so they kind of have to badger you to get you in because there's nothing else special about the restaurant besides location.
Yeah,
and how badgery they are.
I don't like that at all.
Whereas in Greece, like very few of them do that, and even then it's like there's a lot of variety. And
one way you could look at it, I suppose, on a positive way, is that they respect you enough, theoretically, that
they respect your money.
Well, but they could respect you such that they are willing to do the bartering, and the badgering and the harassing and whatnot. But they think if you didn't like it, you just go on your way and we'd both be fine, right?
Yeah, no, that is a part of it. That's one of the problems with traveling with their dad is whenever someone engaged with him, he had to engage back.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, these people are just saying this. Like, you look what everyone else is doing. They ignore them. That's what you have to do.
Because, you don't...
If you engage with them, that makes them then engage. It's not like every person that walks by, they're just going to say, hello, my friend, come and eat with me.
Yeah,
and there's nothing going on in their brain when they say that. The instant you acknowledge that they said something, suddenly they activate. And then if you say, no, thank you,
then you're actually costing them mental resources and energy. Like, if you just ignore them, it's like, okay, whatever. But you engage with them, and then suddenly they're like, okay, now I've got a hook. I got to pull them in. And suddenly they're wasting energy when they were never going to get a bite anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's like, it's a sort of bartering culture, right? Yeah. Which, it's just a different mindset. And because people, they'll barter, they'll be like, well, no, this is the best thing in the world. It's like, no, this is garbage. Look, it's falling apart. And it's this back and forth. And at the end, both people are like, yeah, that was good bartering. Yeah. And go on. Theoretically, I've not really experienced much bartering in real life myself. Like, I've been in places where there's bartering going on, but typically it's just, maybe you knock 10% off and you take it, but you're not actually doing a big fight over the prices because I don't know how this happened, actually. Like, how did so many Western nations just oh yeah, we'll agree to whatever price the store. Well, what it is, it's kind of this passive
Order.
But well, the problem is not enough customers actually use their power as a customer, because your custom, right, in a Western nation, your custom is a privilege you grant to people.
Yeah.
Which means if someone is outrageous, you don't tell them you're outrageous. You just go out of business.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you set your prices on all your market stops, we can't barter for them, but they're all way too high.
Yeah.
You're not selling anything. We're gone. And when people write complaints on your video game, let's say, when people are like, this game sucks, you don't have this, it's buggy, you have a battle pass, right? They might write it rude. But that is actually a massive privilege, because they're actually telling you, this is why I didn't buy your game.
Yeah.
Now, if they bought your game and they're giving you a review, that's a different story. But if they're saying, this is why I didn't buy your game, or this is why I didn't buy your product, that's actually huge, because then you don't just sit there and go to business because nobody's buying your stuff and you don't know why. Because, I sell books, right? I have no idea what price to set them at. So if someone gave me a 1-star review and said, this is way too expensive, I'd be like, oh, good to know.
Yeah.
And it'd be even better if they're like, look, industry standard is $13.99. If you set it at this, then I'll buy it and all my friends will buy it. Like, that would be very nice. But, those weird things, they're not nice. They're not fun to read. They're not pleasant. But it's like, that is actually a benefit. And yet what companies do instead is they kick out anyone that complains on their forums. They ban them. They lock down their accounts. And then they steal all your data and spy on you because they have no idea what you want. And they're so confused. They're like, we just don't know what these people want. We have to spy on them like crazy. Instead of, letting them just give it to us for free of their own volition. And then we have this healthy relationship. But no, we have to take it from them. We have to take it from them. Yeah. Interesting thing happened while you were traveling. I don't know if you heard about this, but there was a fire.
Yeah, I heard about it briefly.
Yeah, and it destroyed all communications for about 26 hours. So cell phones are down, internet was down, everything was down. And CBC afterwards went around and interviewed people. And they were asking them, how'd you feel about, you couldn't use your cell phone, you couldn't get a hold of the internet, you couldn't use a normal phone even.
Yeah.
Everything was out. And they interviewed about 10 people. 100% of the people they interviewed, it was great. It was awesome. And that made me think, we're doing something wrong.
Well, so...
We're doing something very wrong with the internet.
Yeah.
And cell phones.
I've kind of figured out what it is. And part of it is the approach. We've talked about this before, but... So your cell phone goes ding, right?
Yeah.
And you have to respond to that.
Yeah. You're walking in the woods, you're just having a great time. Ding! Oh, I'm not in the woods anymore.
Whereas, from inception, so we have mail. Mail for communication. It's...
You go to the mailbox.
Yeah. You write a letter. You go to... you get mail every day. But it takes a week to get there. And then, correspondence gets sent back. And there's time. You respond to it. You can choose not to. Someone writes you a letter. And they send it to you. And you get it. And you're like, oh, okay. And then a month later, you write a letter back. It's like, that's fine. Or someone writes a letter to you and says, this is urgent, please respond. You're like, oh, that's a bit of a bother, but okay. They went through all the effort. They wrote me this letter. All right. Mentally, that's that there. And communications by letter have been around a very long time in humanity. And even then... we haven't really liked them. There's mail you can like to get, there's mail you can hate to get.
Yeah.
There's news you can like to get, there's news that you cut off the messenger's head because you get it. But there was a lot of time in between, and you chose how to respond. Yeah, and I think it wasn't always there. Whereas, then email showed up, and even then it's like, oh, I sent you an email, and it's like, I check my emails in the evening, and so that's up there, so every evening you go through your email. Now, it's instant message, you must respond instantly. Instant message, you must respond instantly. And, for a very long time, I had this ding on my phone, which would stress me out, and a lot of people didn't like it. And it's like, this is a notification you got. And so it's like, I get it, and I could respond. And then I muted that, and I turned off the sound notifications, and I still have that. If you send me a message on my phone, I don't actually, I have other notification sounds on, but I don't have receiving messages on at all. And it's, when I check my messages, when I check my email, that's when I'll see it. And then I might reply, or I might reply when I reply to 10 things. And it's like, all right, this is my time in the day that I'm going to devote to replying to stuff.
But I think there's more to it than that, though.
But I think that's a part of it, is this instant, I must respond instantly. Everyone is entitled to my time. I'm entitled to everyone else's time.
That's definitely part of it. But I think, so one thing I noticed was the cell phones, and internet went out, right?
Yeah.
If just the internet had gone out, everyone would have been using their data, and they would have been phoning each other, internet out for you, internet out for you. You'd be phoning all your friends and family outside of the 3 provinces of Canada that went down. It was NWT, the Yukon, and the northern British Columbia, basically, went down. So you'd be phoning all of them like, yeah, I'm okay, there's no fire here. It would be more stressful, right? If the internet if just the internet goes down, super stressful. If just your phone goes down, you're then like, oh, I got nothing. I guess I'll use Facebook instead. And so, and you might be using Facebook more because you're thinking, oh, I don't have my phone, so you're on Facebook all the time. I got to stay by my computer so I can send messages. So it's actually more stressful. When both go down, you can't contact anyone, and you think, okay, well then I guess the whole day is for me.
Yeah.
Because even if you and you don't have to think, oh, and I'll check my emails now, and I'll check because the thing about receiving even a letter in the mail, right?
Yeah.
Hidden inside a letter, in the little Trojan horse that is a letter, is the you must respond to me.
Yeah.
Like you must send me a letter back. People say, oh no, you don't need to send me a letter back. It's like, yeah, no. Everyone says, oh, this person doesn't talk to me. This person isn't responding. Did I say something wrong? Like everyone does. Nobody is actually, I don't know, selfless in this. Nobody's like, oh yeah, I sent you a thing. I don't expect anything back. Everyone's like, oh, even if you are trying to be super selfless, you're like, well, I just want to some indication that they got my message. I just want to know they received the message, right? Yeah. I don't want them to be stressed. A lot of people say this about people who don't respond to communication. I have a friend who doesn't. I don't do it, so I've heard it on both sides.
Yeah.
And everyone says, oh, we don't really want to like stress them out or just keep hounding them. I just want to know how they're doing, right? Or it's, I just want to know that they got my message.
Yes.
Just a little thumbs up is all I want.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, that is a demand. That is a demand. You're saying, I want this notification delivered that I read this. It's like, you send me 20 memes. I don't want to read all your stupid memes.
You should move to Norway.
I want to live my own life. Why?
You're walking down the street and someone says hello to you, and you can just keep on walking.
No, I like saying hi to people on the street.
Yeah, but I say, like, in Norway, they don't... It's rude to...
Yeah, but that isn't... The thing about... That's actually an interesting point. It doesn't actually...
Oh, you're talking to me? You think you're entitled to my time by saying, well, is that me?
But no, you're not talking to them when you say hello. That's the thing. It doesn't slow your walking. It doesn't actually... You're on a walk, so there's this saying hello. Like, that is just something to do. Now, when I'm walking in the woods and I see a person, I don't like that. I don't like seeing people in the woods.
You'd rather see a bear.
Yeah, I would, because if there's a bear, it's like, okay, I'm in the woods, there's a bear. My experience is still I'm in the woods. If there's a person, suddenly I'm not, like, you go into the woods to get away from everything, right? So you go into the woods and you're like, I just want to be away from everyone. And you're like, okay, I am in nature and everything around me is nature. A person walks up and they say, oh, hey, how's it going? Suddenly you're out of this environment that you were trying to get away from people. Suddenly there's the person. And in our woods, like, there's a lot of murderers too. Like, we have some of those murders on Earth, I think. Yeah, and
also, if someone's in our woods, that means they're trespassing.
Well, but anywhere you're walking, right? Like,
yeah, but I'm like,
yeah.
No, they are usually trespassing.
Right, but if you're just in some public land, right?
Yeah.
You're in the middle of like the Killarney National Park. You're just like, if you see a person there, it's like, okay, this person might be a mad trapper trying to kill me, because they're surprisingly common. But bears killing people, that happens. It does happen. But the other thing is, if a bear starts approaching you, okay, there's a problem. It's like, okay, let's shoot the bear or whatever, right? Because you don't want the bear to be approaching you. But a bear won't often approach you. If there's a person approaching you, they could be there to murder you, or they could be there to say hello. Because typically, you see a bear, the bear sees you both go the other way. So
walk quietly and carry a big gun.
So, yeah, I think a lot of the time I would rather see a bear, but it really depends on everything, right? Like, nose to nose, rather see a person. Because, a bear is more dangerous than a person without a gun.
Yeah.
And now there's a lot of people with guns, but I think on average the person you're going to meet in the woods isn't going to be a gun-toting maniac who's going to...
Yeah.
Or a knife-wielding maniac, or just a strangler, Yeah. People, they're creative. They'll figure it out. But, So the other thing I noticed with the internet down is, okay, I've got so many books to read, right? I've got so many games I want to play. I've got so many hobbies and tasks and everything else I want to do. It's a huge list. No internet, no phone. This backlog is now reserves and all the things I can do. It's like, oh, look at this. There's so much I can do. And there is no, I'm going to go onto YouTube. It's like, no. You can relax, which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can work through your backlog, as it were, which is nice, because the backlog is no longer a backlog. It is now a list of options.
Yeah.
And that was actually something I didn't expect. It was this quite profound, like, everything I do is for me. Even though you think, well, watching a YouTube video is for me, isn't it? But it is if you watch the right YouTube videos, but often you find yourself on YouTube just sort of watching videos because you're out of videos, so you're watching the next one. But this way, it's like, okay, the options are to only do those things which you decided were, like, I was talking about kids, they only had 3 games. I think the advantage was actually you didn't have Steam to download a new game the moment you got bored of the game. If you got bored of the game, you put it down, you go, you walk around outside a bit, and you're like, okay, I got an idea. And then you go back to the game and you... Mm-hmm. And it's kind of sad to make it sound like a game is this horrible... I was actually thinking about it. There's a YouTuber called Daryl Does Games. And he's like a former psychology student, kind of like me. I don't think he ever got a degree, but he did psychology. And he applies a lot of psych papers to video games and the things that arise from video games. And a lot of them are like problems that arise from video games. Like fear of missing out, anxiety about not completing quests, perfectionism, not getting 100%. Mm. And I was thinking, why do you need so much training and philosophical thought in order to enjoy games and not be destroyed by them? But then I was also thinking, maybe that's kind of interesting though, isn't it? Like that's training for the world. If you can play games and enjoy them, you're ready for the real world. Yeah. Anyway, it's a psychological battleground. The perfectionism one I really resonated with actually, because the line someone in the comments posted, which I think was amazing, was play games as if you'll play them again. Because a lot of times I've been playing Legend of Grimrock 2 recently, and well, this game's a bit different because it's like at some level I don't care if I miss a secret because it's so hard, right? It's such a hard, but it's like you're playing a game and you're like, oh, if I don't find every little thing and every little, I gotta go down. Like you're playing a Metroidvania, you're like, oh, I haven't seen what's down there, even though I'm almost done the game and it's going to be like $20, but I got to see it all because what if it's really cool? But if you say, well, maybe I'll play this game again, and that'll be the first place I go the next time I play. Yeah. It's like you free yourself from the perfectionism of you don't have to 100% the game to see it all. Like I beat Cave Story. I don't know if I told you about that, but I beat Cave Story a little while back, which was very hard. And then I learned there's like a true ending. Yeah. And the true ending, the true ending is an insanely difficult task to complete, and it doesn't seem fun, and you have to do all this stuff that doesn't make any sense at all. And he said this is something that happens to players where they think, oh, I can't just move on because then I'll get locked out of the thing, right? Yeah. Like in Baldur's Gate, for instance, if you don't refuse to return the noble's pants from his dry cleaning in the first game, then you can't get a really cool item in the third game. Yeah. And it's like, okay, so you're paralyzed and you have to look up everything you do because otherwise you lock yourself out of it. Or there's a quest in the second game. There's a knight you can get to join your party. Yeah. And if you don't very quickly complete a quest that you might not be able to complete unless you have the right items when you start the quest, you have about like 3 days to complete the quest. If you don't complete it in time, he's stuck as a knight forever instead of becoming this very strong paladin.
Or if you walk into a tavern, Jaheira gets poisoned and dies.
Yeah, if you don't have the ability to complete the quest that they send you on. It's not a very hard quest, but if you're right at the start of the game... and you've just gotten out of Irenicus's dungeon, you might not be strong enough to do the quest, and then the first thing you go is and then you're doomed. Yeah,
that's part of your story. It's sad, but Jaheira died.
Right, but it's also like it makes you paranoid. Yeah, where you have to stop and like look around every corner and save scum a lot, and it turns you into a perfectionist because you don't trust the game anymore. Yeah, and so the thing he said was the way to solve it is actually to trust the game developer. It's like don't worry about like okay, you're playing Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom. And like, okay, I'm going to go fight Ganon, but I haven't seen every dungeon. What if there's a really cool dungeon I'm missing? What if there's this or that? And you're like, oh, but there's this thing I could do, or what if I didn't do this? And it makes you this perfectionist.
I think one of the problems with trusting the games, I think it's very important to trust the game developer, but there's one problem with it.
Well, they break your trust a lot.
Yeah, they break your trust, or they're bad at it. See, when I played Half-Life 1 and Half-Life 2, I realized while I was playing, this is one of the greatest games ever made. I watched it. What made me want to play a game was watching a video of the people who made the game talk about making the game. And I was like, a lot of work went into this game. Gabe Newell basically, like when they're basically done the first game, he said, this game is garbage, we have to start over. And so they did. And so Half-Life, I trusted them implicitly. Like, if I got lost or frustrated, it's like, no, they want me to be able to beat this, they want me to be able to complete their game, they want me to have fun. Think about it just a little differently and see what's going on. So I played Halo 1, 2, 3, and 4's campaigns recently. I beat all of them. Halo 1 has a pretty solid campaign. It makes sense. It goes around. You know what's going on. Halo 2, again, makes sense. It's just an iterative add-on. You go around. It carries on. Halo 2, I think, is one of the coolest campaigns because you switch between Chief and the Arbiter. And then Halo 3 is cool. There's like different aspects. You go through it. It was with...
Is that Reach? Or is it...
No, this is Halo 3. the actual title. I haven't played Reach or any of those things because I'm going to play those multiplayer. But Halo 3 had the Studio 343's new textures add to it, and so I'd switch back and forth to see how they did it versus how the old game ran.
Bungie did it?
Yeah, Bungie did it. I played through that.
You know, my only Halo achievement is killing a 343 team member.
Really?
Yeah, that's the only kill I've gotten in Halo is
in the multiplayer.
Is one of the developers, yeah.
So, I played Halo 4. Man, it's just not as good.
Is that the one with like the the dude with the plasma guns and stuff? Like the fiery...
it's got the third type of weapon.
Yeah.
And
those weapons are cool.
They're cool, but they're cool looking.
Yeah.
But their shooting doesn't feel as good as the human guns feel the best by far.
I always like the Needler.
The Needlers, like, those are cool concepts, but the human guns feel the best. The Protoss guns are conceptually really cool. The alien guns are just flashy and good looking, and that's it. And, like, you have less ammo, the fighting's not as good, they got rid of the dual wielding, I don't know why they did that. The enemies just don't, like, it's dogs and knights, and I hate the dogs, and I hate the knights, it's not fun to fight them.
Right.
Everything feels like work in Halo 4. And when you fight the old enemies, it's like, when I had the super alien weapons, right? So I had these weapons, and I'm fighting the super aliens, like the super robots and the dogs. And they're taking a fair amount of shots from these guns, like, these were guns designed to fight them. When I had these guns fighting the Covenant, they should have been one-shotting the Covenant. They actually should have, like, one shot from one of these advanced alien weapons should instantly take down a Covenant. Maybe you need 2 shots to take down an Elite, and like 5 shots to take down a Hunter. But no, it's the same strength as a human gun, or the sniper is even weaker than the human sniper or the Covenant sniper.
Right, so they did that thing we were talking about before. Ice Queen, she freezes water.
Yeah.
If it breaks the balance, too bad. That's the first thing, is she freezes water. And they didn't go for that.
No, they instead made it balanced, and they made a lot of the other weapons balanced in the game. They got rid of some of the broken weapons. And it's like, no, like, maybe if you want to put these in the multiplayer, change them for the multiplayer. But in the campaign, these things should be unbalanced. That's the thing, like, Halo 2 Scorpion, my favorite missions are Halo 2 Scorpion missions. Halo 3 Scorpion mission, I don't, like, it's not as good, still pretty fun. Halo's 4 Scorpion mission, I did not enjoy it.
I also wonder about Halo 4. I haven't really played the campaigns too much, but, like, I have played them a bit, but, the AI in at least the first few games is actually really, really good.
Yeah. Well, there's one change I don't get why they did in Halo 4.
So I don't know if Halo 4 is like that or not.
So in Halo 1, 2, and 3, you understand the aliens. And grunts are hilarious.
Yeah.
We're like, I don't want to... Like, they don't want to be in a fight.
Yeah.
In Halo 2, you can find a grunt who's basically trying to convince other grunts that they're being oppressed by the Covenant, and that they should rise up, and they should ally themselves with the humans, and you can actually get an achievement for killing him during his speech. He's like, you have to try really hard to go find him. And then, in Halo 4, you can't understand the Covenant.
Yeah.
And it's like, why did you do that? That's like, a part of the charm of the game is there's funny moments of levity of when you, like, sneak up on a patrol, and you hear them talking, or the grunt says something like, oh no, it's the demon!
Yeah, but also, like, not only are they well written, but they're like advanced AIs. It's like Breath of the Wild, where there's only like 4 enemy types, but you can do, like, if you kill all the Arbiter type dudes, whatever those are called.
Elites.
If you kill all the elites, the grunts might run away because they're like, I'm out of here. I'm not fighting you. And like,
or if hunters drop into the battlefield, grunts scatter because hunters will kill the grunts.
Yeah, like they have interactions with each other, and they make decisions. They have their own minds. Like, I want to stay alive. I'm not fighting this.
Yeah.
They're
the AI doesn't seem as good, and also, like, the new enemy type of the weird aliens, it's so much worse than the Flood. Like, the Flood, I know the Flood's beaten, but the Flood's a fun enemy. Like, I love in Halo 1 when you encounter the Flood, and you are the little wiggly heads that run around, and they get destroyed like popcorn. Like, one shot kills them, and their death might actually kill other ones around. It's like, okay, these things are kind of gross, they're swarmy, I don't like them, you take them out. And then you encounter the Flood zombies. And you're like, okay, these things are tough. I can't melee them anymore. There's different types of weapons to beat them. Like, you take, instead of meleeing them, you take a shotgun, and it's really good against them. or the energy sword's really good against them. Whereas when you're fighting the elites, shotguns aren't actually all that good, because you get close to elite with a shotgun, you shoot him once, and then he punches you in the face and you're down.
Yeah.
And then you're like, all right, making my way through the flood, and then the flood start using weapons. And you're like, okay, I had to use Covenant weapons before because the human weapons run out of ammo. But if I have a shotgun, I'm taking out the flood. I want to try flying other human flood using shotguns to replenish my shotgun ammo. And it's this sort of fun thing of these are advanced zombies. And then in Halo 3, when the floods start mutating, and there's like the Needler and the Tank and the Stalker flood, and you're like, don't you dare mutate into a Needler. I hate the Needler, like the Sniper flood. And so they're all really interesting and fun to play against. And the alien, the Forerunner robots are just so boring and so uninteresting, and they don't have any story to them. They're just advanced robots.
So regarding Halo 4 then, I guess what you're getting at is maybe there's a bunch of side quests or something, and you're like,
well, with all the Halo games, actually, like all four of them, there's a lot of stuff, like, we were playing with someone else in Halo 2, and he pointed out, if you go down this one corridor, you can hear the voice actor for Caboose from Red vs. Blue. He actually has a cameo in it, and he interacts with this different person. Whereas there's probably like a ton of stuff like that in all the games, but I just played through it because I trusted Halo 1, 2, and 3, and then I played through 4, and then I can't play 5, and I don't want to play 6.
But yeah, so then do you get like with Halo 4, do you still feel like, oh, I might be missing something though because I'm...
Yeah, no, I do get that, but I don't.
What if it's the one good thing of Halo 4, and so
but
I have to take choices? It's like I have to play the game. It's funny because if I play Heroes of Might and Magic, I'm having a great time, right? I just go through the game.
Yeah.
But if it's a game that I don't really like, or I liked a lot of it, but not the end, like Cave Story, I don't go, okay, I'm done Cave Story, I'll just not do the final boss. I'm like, no, I gotta beat the final, I gotta do this part I don't like because I don't like this game.
Well, sometimes I'd have moments where there's missions where you're supposed to get into a warthog, and you're supposed to drive around and have a guy on the gun turret, or you have the NPC drive your car and you're on the gun turret. And a lot of times when you're doing the warthog mission, wraiths will attack you, and I jump out of the warthog immediately and hijack a wraith because I can drive and shoot on it. And then I do the mission and that. And it always felt wrong, but it was right at the moment. And I did miss having Marines with me. Like, I didn't get to hear the Marine voice lines. But it's like...
And you have this, like, he called them unclosed loops, right? I have to go back and experience it the proper way and then drive in the thing, even though I did it the fun way. And what you should be doing is having fun. It's like, no, this is for fun. You did it the fun way.
Yes.
But you're like, but I missed something. I have to go back.
And that's the same thing with the Halo 2, the Scorpion mission. There's a point where you're obviously supposed to get out of the Scorpion. I didn't. And I drove it, and I got it through, like, the checkpoint, and I kept driving a little bit farther before they hard locked it so you could no longer drive it. But it's like, this Scorpion in Halo 2 is the funnest thing, because you can use this machine gun, and when you fire it, here's the difference between human weapons and Protoss weapons. So they're not Protoss,
Covenant.
Covenant weapons deal more damage, but they have projectiles that actually travel. Human weapons deal less damage, but they hit scan. So in Halo 1 and 2, the Scorpion's main turret hit scanned. And it's amazing to have a bazooka tier Doom weapon hit scan as a projectile. Because you see like a little wraith flying along, you hit it. You see a ghost flying through the air, you aim your turret up, you shoot. There's like a bunch of elites charging you. You don't have to shoot in front of them. You shoot at them, it takes them out.
The Covenant tank, you have to admit that projectile looks so cool. It's like,
it is cool. And there's
a big artillery piece.
There's a trick to it in all but Halo 4 because they balanced it, which I think was a mistake. Is if you're in the Scorpion and the Covenant tank fires at you, you think you back up to avoid. You don't. You drive forwards, and you'll always drive under their fire arc. Ugh. And yeah, even like I just love the Scorpion so much. It feels so good. Like its projectiles hit. Even Halo 3 feels good. And then Halo 4, it has like a trail shot to it, and someone has to be in your turret, and its damaging doesn't look so good. And know those giant flying dropships that Covenant have?
Yeah.
Shooting those out of the air with the Scorpion, it takes about 3 to 4 shots, I think. In Halo 4, it takes like 6 shots. And when you kill it, it just like turns into rubble instantly and falls out of the air. Whereas the earlier games, they'd like get damaged, and then you see them smoking, and then they like break down, actually crash and like devastate the crash site and take out guys who are running about. I don't understand actually how Halo 4 is such a step back. I know the team's changed, but it's like, just take their noodle code and steal it.
So so with like the abandoning the warthogs for the banshees and going on, that's where the play like you'll play it again comes in, right? It's like, oh, I can come back next time I play and then I can listen to the dialogue. It doesn't matter if you do or not. It's just play as if you'll play again.
Yeah, no, there's another moment.
And then you can I'll have fun this time, and next time we'll get all the story.
There's another moment where you're supposed to take down 2 scarabs. I think this is in Halo 4, it might be in 3, and you're doing it in a wasp. Now, how you're supposed to do it is you fly the wasp around, and you shoot the scarab's legs, so their legs get destroyed, and then you continue to bombard them until they're destroyed. What I tried to do several times is I'd fly the wasp down, jump out of the wasp, jump onto the scarab, take out the scarab because Master Chief can kill them very fast if he takes down their core. And then while it's blowing up, I'd try to run back out of it and get back into the wasp and fly away. I could always do it on the first one, but my wasp gets so damaged by the time I'd get on the second one, it would get killed, and then I'd be on a blowing up scarab without a way to get off. And so it's like, alright, there's a way to obviously do it. You can either get into a ground vehicle, you can fly the wasp and barbar it, but I bet I can fly the wasp at an angle to fire into the engine room as if Master Chief was there himself shooting it. And so I use the wasp's weapons to take out the scarabs in the non-vehicle way.
Yeah.
But you're right, but like, I did play it as in like, I really wanted to get out and beat them both. I was like, no, I just want to keep playing the game, so I will now fly and barbar it, and I could play it again.
You'll have fun.
Or I could play it with someone else. Because if you play it with someone else, it'd be a lot easier because you respawn. Whereas if you're doing it by yourself, then you respawn at a checkpoint.
Is number 5 the Master Chief Collection, where it has all the others in it, or?
Master Chief Collection has everything up till number 5. Number 5 is not playable on PC. It's Xbox exclusive.
Because I think it's number 5 that has the ridiculously large Forge maps. Like, they're huge, which is very fun. But, like, you can build your own maps and they're massive.
Yeah, and then Infinity has an open world for some reason.
But I imagine number 1 or 2 probably has a mod that makes the Forge maps really
Infinity has a... It might be Reach that has the big worlds, because Reach has big Forge maps.
Maybe, yeah. Yeah, because I don't think they had the fancy guns, the Protoss things, or whatever they were
I think
called.
you're thinking of Reach.
Yeah. But,
the Forerunner guns.
Forerunners, yeah. And, well, Infinite, I don't know, like, I've seen it looks pretty cool, like the grappling hook and stuff.
Grappling hook's really fun multiplayer. I think I stopped playing it because I just want to play with a group of friends, playing against each other, and not playing against randos online.
Right, well, yeah, I wouldn't want to do the multiplayer so much. Yeah. But, like, I don't know if the campaign is just you going around the world.
The campaign's, Killian did a video on it.
Yeah.
And it's hard to tell what Killian's thinking, but he seemed dismissive and kind of like he didn't like...
Because I don't like...
campaign.
They did a lot of, like, get rid of all the free cosmetics and stuff, which I didn't like, but the game itself looked, well, poorly optimized. But...
It's also open world and, like, really slow.
Right.
One of my biggest problems, actually... as well. Apparently they had it set up, but so Halo 3, do you know the ending to the campaign?
Probably. I think I know. I think I've roughly played the ending of every game, more or less.
Oh, no, you definitely played Halo 3's ending because I was there when you and Colton beat it.
Okay.
Redact. Yeah, I was there when you and your friend beat it. Right. It's when you drive in the Warthog and the whole map's exploding.
Oh yeah, I love that ending. Yeah.
2 of them end like that. 1 and 3 both end like that. But, yeah, but it's the very long drive.
Yeah.
So anyways, you get onto a Pelican. No, you don't get into a Pelican. You get into a human, large ship, and it gets split in half. The Arbiter gets out. You get put into cryosleep, and, Cortana says, don't leave a girl waiting. And that's how it ends. So it's 4 years later, when you're waked up in Halo 4, and you're getting attacked by a Covenant ship. And so you get Cortana out, and she's messed up. And it's like, oh, the Flood messed her up because the Flood can corrupt AI. It's like, no, that's actually not a problem. I messed up because of rampancy, and it's driving me insane. And it's after 7 to 8 years, AI decay and they go insane. And now your motivation is getting back to a human world to try to repair Cortana. And it apparently doesn't work for most AI, but you can potentially save her. And, sorry, I was trying to catch up my memory because I watched all of Halo 5's cutscenes. So I'm trying to remember which game's which.
Right.
So yeah, that's Halo 4. So you accidentally release a Forerunner that deceives you in trying to save Cortana, and then she sacrifices herself to defeat the Forerunner. But the whole time she's like going insane. She's acting like a petulant child that's hyper paranoid. She's also very hot in number 4, but that's a different thing. Some people complain about her outfit. Anyway, so Halo 4 ends like that, and then apparently she's not dead in Halo 5. One of my big problems with Halo 4 is, in all the other games, your motivation is, alright, defeat the Covenant, or, well, try to survive because humanity's losing hard. And then defeat the Flood, and stop the Halo race from activating. So your goal is save humanity, and that's what it is from the start. You are a badass who's saving humanity. Halo 4 starts, and it's like, oh no, we woke up in a Covenant ship, on this ship that's drifting in space. It's 4 years later, and Cortana now has a massive problem because 4 years passed, and it's like, Master Chief would have known about the rampancy, and he wanted to froze himself.
I wonder...
And like 4 years pass. They did say there was rampancy, like in the books beforehand, it was there. But having the 4-year time skip, so it had to be the MacGuffin to save Cortana, just felt really cheap to me.
At what point did Bungie leave the series?
They left it at 4.
So they made 4?
No, sorry, they left it at 3.
Right.
So 4... So they did 3, then they wanted to stop making Halo games. Microsoft said, keep making Halo games. So they made OEST, and they made Reach.
Right.
And then they stopped, and then 343 took over.
Because I don't...
4.
I don't know if you know, but Bungie, like...
But the writer has stayed consistent between the two. The main story writer.
All of Bungie's games share a universe, like even their fantasy games. They all share this weird connected universe. Like Destiny is in that universe. And...
So Destiny's in Halo?
Yeah, but not legally because they don't have the rights to Halo. But it's like... all their and their original sci-fi games, they're all in this universe. Their fantasy game where you're going through, it's like a dungeon crawler, that's set in that universe. And so I wonder if those, like, they tried to purge it. It's the symbol, it's like an arc with like a line through it. And in the later games they tried to get rid of that symbol. It used to be everywhere, and they tried to get rid of it. And I wonder if part of like ditching the old story, ditching the old lore.
It feels like that a bit with like 343 says they're trying to respect the legacy, but there's always, whenever a studio takes over, there's always this slight amount of trying to do better, trying to change things, or trying to have minute cool thing. Like their Forerunner stuff, and like, we're going to put the Forerunners in the game now, and we're going to fight Forerunner things. Like, what would have been really cool, I think, how it handled 4 differently, this is my own opinion, could be wrong, is have the Forerunner weapons like I said, and have them be nightmares. Like, they're really cool like that thing, and they one-shot whatever they come against. And so have it start out, you're collecting these Forerunner weapons, and maybe you fight like 1 or 2 Forerunner enemies, and the Forerunner weapons are the only things that can kill them. Like, you try to use human or Covenant weapons, they do nothing, and so you have to use the Forerunner weapons, and it's like fighting normal enemies. And so you're going through the game, and then it's sort of like an arms race of the human and the Covenant who's still loyal are fighting over trying to control this super Forerunner tech. And like the story could progress from there somewhere, and maybe the Covenant start getting more and more of the Forerunner weapons. And so it's like, oh, that's Elite with a Forerunner gun. You have to snipe him or he'll take you out. And
yeah, it'd be cool if like at the start you get like 2 shot by them, but then you get to, because you right at the start of,
and you upgrade your shield to get a Forerunner shield.
Like right at the start of number 4, you go to the forge of the Forerunner, right? Yeah. But it could be like you go in there and you get empowered, and then you're like, yeah, that'd be cool.
Or the humans come to pick you up and they're like, oh, we've upgraded your Mjolnir armor to...
Yeah. Or it could just be that the Spartans are that tough still.
Yeah.
Because
they're ridiculously tough.
I think their armor in lore is like several inches of titanium or something, which would be very heavy.
No, and then their force fields are insane.
Like, very heavy.
Well, so in Halo 5, there's a cutscene right at the beginning, which is it's 4 Spartans going down a mountainside, and they're defeating an army of Covenant. Like, that's the cutscene. And then you think about, like, when you're playing the game as Master Chief, you have the Marines running around you in the campaign, and they get picked up really fast. And then Master Chief is just annihilating the Covenant, and then he gets into a scorpion. And I actually had to look this up. It's like, how are the humans losing? Because Master Chief in a scorpion is a death sentence to an army.
Yeah, well, I think Master Chief is like unusually lucky.
He's unusually lucky. He's unusually skilled. He's one of the few Generation 2 Spartans that's still alive.
Because they all went crazy or something?
Some of them went crazy. A lot of them just died.
And weren't the if I remember correctly, the Spartans were created to stop rebellions against the Earth government or something?
Yeah, so the Spartans were created... So Spartan 1s were just people that were, like, genetically modified into Spartans, and all of them died. Spartan 2s were orphans that were indoctrinated by the government to stop rebellion, and then the Covenant showed up, and the Spartans, basically one Spartan is enough to take out a Covenant fleet.
But the Arbiter, well, I guess he's the best Covenant soldier.
He's the greatest of the elite, and he lost to Master Chief.
Yeah, but he's basically equal to a Spartan.
Yeah. But he lost to Master Chief, who's the greatest of the Spartans.
But I wonder...
Yeah, no, there's this kind of badass scene in the cuts in Halo 5. I'm happy they did it this way. So Spartan Locke is hunting down Master Chief, because Master Chief basically goes off looking for Cortana. So Locke gets to them, and they have their showdown. They're having the fist fight. And Locke's kind of winning the fight, like they're pretty even. And he has this item that will lock down Spartan's armor, and he's going to try to use it on Chief. But before, they're just having their fist fight. And then he kicks Master Chief in the head, and he cracks Master Chief's visor. And that moment, it's like, the gloves are off.
Yeah.
And Master Chief just brings the beat down on him, and he locks the Spartan force. And Master Chief just beats him down. Then Locke's about to use his, like, haha, I win no matter what item. Master Chief catches his hand, reverses it, and sticks on him, and then just walks away. And so I'm happy that they didn't have our new Spartan Locke can beat your Master Chief from the old one. It's like, no, at least they respected Master Chief. And
do you know the story of Reach?
No, but Reach is like a place that fell, and there was Spartans defending it.
Okay, so you probably don't, like...
I know the trailer is like, this guy doesn't wear his helmet, and he gets sniped in the head, and this guy...
Well, there's like 5 main characters, right? And are they Spartans?
Yeah, they're all Spartans.
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
And the last mission is two of you are defending.
Well, I don't want to spoil it for anyone that hasn't done Reach, I guess. Well, I guess, I don't know, maybe what we should do, right, is we only ever on the podcast, or maybe in life in general, talk about media we both know. Yeah. Like, we both know, or we don't care if it's spoiled, right? Yeah. Like, I don't care if some anime's spoiled, typically. But then on the podcast, it's like, okay, if we mention anything, it's getting spoiled. Yes. We're sorry. Or we're not going to try, but it's like your name, still not going to spoil. The game, Outer Wilds, I'm going to do my best not to spoil. But it's like, we bring it up, it's gloves are off, and it's not because we're willing to spoil it, it's because our mouths are not...
Yeah, like, I know some things about Reach, I just haven't played it.
Yeah, I think it's pretty... I think most people know how Reach goes.
But the Covenant are attacking, and it's a world that falls.
Yeah. It's funny, like, this is a weird...
I actually think that human weapons and technology is better than Covenant tech. I just think humans are actually really outnumbered. That's, like, the main thing. They are insanely outnumbered. There are so few Spartans. Like, Spartans are hard to make. And even without Spartans, like, the human marines, the human ships, I think they're superior. It's like, you have a naval ship, and there's 500 war canoes attacking you.
Yeah. Well, I think the Banshee, though, is, like, the coolest thing in the game, right? Like, or the Wraith as well, like the
flying?
Yeah.
I actually prefer the Wasp.
The helicopter thing?
Yeah, the human helicopter.
But you can't control it on your own. Like, you need the guys and...
No, you can control it on your own, and you can fire the heat-seeking missiles. Guys just sit on it and shoot from the corners. That's the big difference with the human tech, is people can sit on it and fire.
Like, the human tech has way more firepower, but I think the alien tech is more maneuverable. Like,
yes, no, it definitely is. The alien tech's more maneuverable, but the human tech... Again, it's literally the difference between their technology and why I call the human tech superior is human tech has hit scan, alien tech has projectiles.
But, like, the thing I care about is on Valhalla, I think is the main multiplayer map.
Yeah.
If you hit a rock with a Banshee, you can get sick air.
Yes.
You can't with a Warthog. You just sort of fall over.
Warthogs, they're fun though because you flip them.
Yeah. But if you get a Warthog onto one of those jump pads, Then you go.
You know what would be really stupid? You know how you can flip almost every vehicle, including like the Scorpion, you can flip it?
Flip over the Mammoth or whatever
Yeah,
it's
the
called.
Mammoth gets just Master Chief. Whoop!
Is it an elephant or mammoth? I can't remember.
There's a Mammoth and there's an elephant. There's both of them.
What are the names in there?
It's actually really cool. So, human things
Are
animals,
Yeah.
and the Covenant ships are
ghosts.
Are creatures.
Yeah.
So like Banshee, Ghost, Wraith.
Yeah, they're all spooks.
Yeah. And the mongoose. I love myself a good mongoose.
Oh, that's the little thing?
That's a little Jeep that you have someone sit on the back of. And I remember I was playing multiplayer with a friend and I took a jump and it flipped and we both just died from landing on our heads.
Am I remembering this correctly?
There is a mongoose with a gun.
No, just like the mongoose where sometimes you try to, maybe I'm remembering this wrong, but I swear that like you try to assassinate someone and you accidentally get on behind them.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's real or not.
That probably is a possibility with mongoose.
Yeah, I don't know if that's real. But yeah, mongoose is very fun, especially on the jump pads again.
It's just, it feels, well, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it's interesting like how many, like Halo's a very popular game, right?
Yeah.
But popular games,
It's just, it's a shame because like 1, 2, and 3, I had the same feeling as I did with, like not as much, but the same feeling as I did with Half-Life, which is
Really?
I trust them.
You're like,
I'm
yeah,
going
let's
to go with it. And then Halo 4 is sort of, like Halo 4 is still, it's a well-made game. The flack that Halo 4 gets isn't completely deserved. The problem is it's trying to follow up 1, 2, 3, Reach, and OST.
yeah,
And those are amazing games. They're not as good as Half-Life, but they're still like, they're amazing games. It's a fine game, but it's got problems, and they're problems that shouldn't be there because they should know what works. That's the thing. They should know what works. Like, they reduced the amount of ammo you had, and they increased the sponginess of enemies. That's not... Halo isn't a challenge in that fact. Halo campaigns are fun because they're quick. You can get into them.
they're almost closer to an immersive sim or something. Yeah.
Like a Halo mission takes 15 to 20 minutes. These Halo 4 missions take 25 to 30 minutes.
Yeah, they almost started to turn to like Gears of War, like a cover-based shooter instead of...
like it takes more time. Enemies hit a little bit harder. There's like more... They take more bullets. There's less ammunition. The grenade slots they reduce. Like, I love carrying 4 grenades of both types. I have 4 human grenades. I have 4 alien grenades. They're really fun to throw.
But they added a third grenade type, right? So.
The third grenade type is garbage. It is the worst thing. You throw it out, and it pops open, and it creates this AoE spawn of damage.
Yeah, it looks cool.
It looks cool. It is awful in execution. One of the things...
That's all that matters is it looks cool. Right?
One of the main things to use grenades for is you throw them, and because they are smart, grunts and elites and jackals, they all jump out of the way of grenades because they don't want to get hit by them. And so you use that to mess with their cover. So you throw it, and you make them jump into the open, and then you can shoot them. Or you throw it, and you throw a second grenade, and you take them out. Or you sticky them, and they blow up. And then you sticky a flood alien, and the idiot charges you and blows up and kills you both. Actually, one of the things I really like with the AI of the elites, so grunts and jackals, when you sticky grenade them, they panic and run around in circles and then they explode. If you sticky an elite, he will charge you because he's taking you out with him. He knows he's dead, but he can blow you both up.
Yeah, they're cool. What are like... Are all the elites invisible, or is there...
No, that's one of their modules, is they can turn invisible.
The elite elites.
Yeah, that's literally the elites. And then there's the brutes, which are the giant gorilla men, which are absolute pain to fight.
But like, there's a certain hipsterish instinct against... Actually, no, first...
Well, I had, like you said, the don't miss me out. So, I have a friend who's replayed Baldur's Gate 3 a lot, and I know a lot of people are like, oh, this game's so replayable. So, I don't get how you guys say that game's replayable. Like, I replayed the intro of it a lot, but I beat Baldur's Gate 3. Like, I did everything. I went to every nook, every corner. I explored everything. I save scummed so I could see the other dialogue options. And I regret doing that now. Like, I save scummed so I got the dice roll results I wanted because there's, like, rolls and dialogue. It's like, I should have just rolled with it. And if I failed the charisma check, then I didn't get to seduce the dragon and I should have to fight it.
Yeah, but I mean, it's tricky because sometimes it's, you probably don't have to overthink it, really.
Yeah.
If you had fun, then you had fun.
I did have fun.
Yeah.
And I got the story I wanted.
But one thing Daryl Does Games talked about was what happens is instead of playing games to have a good time, like instead of playing in a way that lets you have a good time, you play in a way that avoids a bad time. I don't know if you remember this. When we first got Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, I was like super tense, and I think I actually I got upset at a point because it was taking too long to start and it wasn't quite working for whatever reason. But it was because I was so excited for this game, and I think it's amazing. Like it's such a good game. But I was so excited for it, and I wanted everything to go perfectly. Because otherwise it wouldn't be this great game I love so much, right? But the thing is,
that's probably part of the problem with
Tears of the Kingdom.
Tears of the Kingdom is it's supposed to be as amazing as the first one, and it's just all right.
But on top of that, it's more than that. I went into the first game thinking this is a Zelda game. I don't like Zelda. And I was pleasantly surprised. Like, very pleasantly surprised. Right? I went into this one. I didn't go into playing Tears of the Kingdom to have a good time. Right? I went in to avoid having a bad time. Right? I was like, everything must be right. I have to do everything right because this is my sequel to my favorite game. I can't mess up. If I mess up, it's all over. Right? But that in itself probably wrecks the experience. There's other aspects to it. But yeah, that... I remember it very strongly with Smash Bros. Ultimate, where I was just like, I got to do everything. But now that I've played it so much, it's more like, oh, that was a boring session, but it's a great game. I'll play it again sometime. You have your ups and downs, and you're like, yeah, whatever. It's the game. The game's great. I'm playing it to have fun. I'm gonna try something. I'm gonna try something silly. If it doesn't work and it turns out to be boring, whatever. It's a great time. Like you can do some stuff. I'm sure everyone's done it, right? You play a game. You realize there's some glitch or something where you're like, okay, if I spend 10 minutes hitting the jump key, I might be able to hop over this wall instead of having to walk around it. And it's like, you spend like 15 minutes just sitting there, and then you do it, and you're like, okay, yeah, I did it. But sometimes
the Mario World speedruns kind of thing.
But sometimes you fail and nothing happens, right? But you go, okay, that was boring, but it's not like, I ruined everything, it's over, I played wrong. It's like, oh, it didn't work. And you get on with your life. You're 15 minutes shorter life because you spent 15. But no, that's the thing. You're there to have a good time. You're not there to do it. You're not there because apparently that's the mental, the actual DSM-5 perfectionism. What the person is doing is they're terrified of failure. And I think with trust, right? With trust, there's always the chance of betrayal. And trust goes everywhere. Like you trust when you go. You're trusting there's not going to be a loud bang suddenly, right?
Or when you go. A bee is not going to go whoop.
Through your throat. And it happens. And I've inhaled a couple of mosquitoes in my time, right? It happens. And so you don't trust. And so you breathe them through your teeth, and you're always ready for that loud noise. Me, I'm always ready for a loud noise. I'm never but the thing is, if you just relax, actually, and I'm saying this as someone who can't do it very often, but this is true all the same. The loud noises will happen, and they will hit you hard. You'll jump, you'll be like, whoa, right? But the thing, that autonomous response, it's over in 2 seconds. And then you go back to just having a good time. And I was thinking, okay, there's a YouTuber. Her name is Anita Serene. Stargirl is another name she goes by. She is a psychic medium who reads people's fortunes on YouTube. And she lives... All right.
I'm just thinking of televangelist. I'll heal you through the TV, the power of Christ.
Right, no, she's psychic. She's not a healer. Well, maybe she can heal too. But anyways,
okay, you got me all those crystals and I can crystal web, right? I should make a YouTube channel where I make crystal webs for people so they can play the YouTube video and they'll get the positive crystal weave through the...
well, it's intention, right? So if you're in the same attunement when you're watching the videos, when you're making the video, then that's what the YouTube crystal... There's channels that do that already.
Of course there's.
But anyways, they're great. So Anita Serene, she lives in the middle of LA on a busy street. And so you're trying to record a YouTube video. You're trying to be all mystical, and it's hard to record a YouTube video. I'm sure you've done it.
I want to record one right now actually because I haven't recorded for a very long time. And with this cold, I keep coughing. And unfortunately, someone asked me my writing process. I figured out what it is. I think by speaking, and if I'm coughing or spluttering or I can't speak easily, it just doesn't work. I actually can't make these higher quality videos with an interesting dialogue.
I'm kind of the same.
I haven't been able to have this video. I wrote the beginning of it. I know how I want it to go. I have a bunch of it filmed, but I can't get any further right now because I can't record it. Because basically until today, any times for me to talk, I would cough and splutter and make these weird noises.
Just so when you're recording, normally, even when you're healthy, right? it's a bit, you're sitting down, that's a trust moment because you have to, okay, I'm going to record, and you hear like a bang or a ting or what.
Even a plane flying over,
Yeah.
even if your audience can't hear it, it's you hear it's like, oh, there's a plane. It's not saying, oh no, they're going to hear us. I hear the plane.
And now I'm distracted. Yeah. And it takes you out of the moment, and you're like, oh no, everything's ruined, everything's falling apart because I'm out of the mindset I'm at, right? So, and that's perfectionism, right? Yeah. That's like you're trying to avoid bad rather than having a good time. But what she does, which is really interesting, I don't think she does this on purpose exactly, but so she'll be doing a psychic reading for her audience. So what she does is she says, okay, here's 3 cards, choose one, and that chooses what timestamp you go to, and that'll be your reading. Yeah. So she'll do her reading live, and she'll be like rolling her magic dice and drawing her tarot cards and whatnot. Or not her magic dice, but her fortune-telling dice, I guess. And she'll be reading it. She'll be like, okay, so this, I'm getting the feeling that you guys are, you've got a lot of money coming to you, let's say.
Well, yeah, share that with me. Become a channel member.
Yeah. Or you could say, you've got, well, actually a lot of her stuff is quite harsh. She tends to be like, there's someone that's near you shouldn't trust, and they do it. But anyways, so she'll be going through it, and she'll say, okay, so I'm not sure. I think this is either your, so I think this is either there's something to do with the sea, or you're going to go to the sea, or maybe something from the sea is going to come to you. And then like her car will honk in the background because she lives on a busy road, and she's like, there it is. Okay, it's you're going to the sea. It's like the sounds are confirmation to her. So it's like, oh, there's a ding. Like her phone goes off while she's recording. Yeah. She's like, oh, there was a ding. Okay, that was right.
Yeah.
Or she'll say, or it'll be like a car will honk and like drown out her talking, let's say, and she'll be like, oh, okay, I guess that wasn't right. It's got to be this then. And it's like she incorporates it. It's like that is something going right. And so I was thinking, like I don't know how you incorporate that to everything, but one thing you could do, for example, let's say you're writing a script. This would drive you crazy, possibly. Let's say you're writing a script or a story, and you're like, okay, should this character go down the left hallway, or would it be more interesting? He goes down the honk. Okay, he goes down the right, and then like you can integrate it into your processes, and then suddenly it doesn't take you out of it. But the main thing about trust is that it's better to be calm and then have the extra big spike and then go down, because the heightened elevation where you're ready for the sound, it doesn't really reduce the effect of the sound. It still sets you off.
Yeah.
And it lasts longer because then you're angry about it coming off. Whereas if you just get surprised and then you go, like clueless people who just bumble about their lives and like break their thumb twice in a day, like they live the happiest lives because like, they just crash into vans because they don't look out the back of their window. And but
there's a psychologist and physician who has some interesting things. Stress is great for you. Prolonged stress will kill you.
Yeah. Yeah, you want it in the moment.
Yeah. It's like a little bit of stress, that's not bad. If you have it and then it's gone. But continual stress, that'll kill you.
Because stress is basically being on the alert, looking. Yeah. I think it's kind of weird, actually. Well, there's 2 sides to this. In a lot of fantasy books, like I'm sure in The Ranger's Apprentice, they learn to, close your eyes, what color of the room you're in? And you're like, oh, it was this color, that color, right?
Look at this magazine cover. What was the name of the magazine? If it's women's health, men will have no idea.
But it's true of like remember your surroundings. Yeah. Being able to remember all your surroundings around you, that is not a sign. That is a sign you are highly stressed out.
Yeah.
Like you're basically this assassin training or spy training, which I'm sure is real to some extent. But you're basically saying put yourself into overdrive all the time so you're ready. Now that said, I think glasses are caused by inward looking. I think that people. So it's the only correlation that we really know of for glasses or not is the amount of sun exposure you get as a child.
Yeah.
But I think it's actually more than that because that's just a correlation based on this African tribe that gets a lot of sun exposure, basically. I think what's actually going on is if you look outward instead of inward all the time, your eyesight is better. And so you actually focus on things. Like you can be looking and you're ready for you can see movement, right? You can see movement without focusing on anything. So you're always ready. So you can walk around, you can live your life, you're fine. But if you're actually looking at each needle on the tree and it takes a lot of brain power. I noticed when I do this on purpose, when I'm going for a walk, I'll choose a tree in the distance and I'll fix on a specific branch and I'll just stare at the branch while I walk. First of all, it stops rumination because you don't have enough brain power to spare to be upset about something, right? You're trying to focus on this branch and your eyes are desperate. They want to look away. You're allowed to blink in this, but you're not supposed to waver in my, right? But you don't want to keep looking. I want to look at something else. I want to look at something else. But I don't want to be focusing on something. But it's no, focus on, just pick an object and focus on it and look at it.
I have one harder for you. Things to try to do. Figuring out the direction the wind's blowing by staring at clouds when they're moving slow. And so you focus on one shape on a cloud, and
But it's not like, because I think with looking at a pattern on a cloud, you're trying to see movement, right? So you're kind of unfocused. You're looking at everything. But I'm talking about like sharp relief. You're like, you're tracing, like you're looking. It's like everything's high definition. You're looking at exactly the intersection of that thing, right? You're not looking for a pattern. You're just like staring. You're focused. Like everything else is a blur because you're focused on just the one thing, right? And I found if I do that just for a couple days, my vision sharpens right up. Like it gets way better. I can read with my book twice as far out, and I think a lot of people that I don't think it's like television. I think what's going on is if you're watching television or you're playing on the computer and you're not actively looking at the thing, right? You're just sort of playing the game mindlessly, but you're not looking, like truly looking. Then, of course, it's going to ruin your eyes because you're not focusing. Yeah. But if you're watching sports and you're following the puck, I think that's probably going to improve your vision because you're like you're watching birds fly.
Yeah.
You're suddenly focused on something. It's not a blur. You're like, and it's crazy. I was seeing like pine needles on like distant trees. I was just like, and I was like, why can I see so far? It's like something's wrong with the light because I was just focusing. And intentionality. That's what it comes down to there, I guess. But I think so when you're doing the assassin training.
So your theory here, if I'm getting this right, is being a nerd gives you glasses and being a jock makes it so you don't have glasses.
Yes, because the nerd is someone who is like self-absorbed.
Yeah.
They're constantly thinking about their D&D character. They're not actually looking at things. But the jock is actually watching sports, so they're watching the ball. They're watching. Yes. So that is sure. And it does, I think, have a loose correlation. I don't know if anyone's actually done a study on that or not, but I think, and it's also way better for your mental health. I think to just like not be ruminating. Like you're in this loop. You're just like no focus, and you're less self-absorbed too, self-centered in a way. You're like, text is really good for it, obviously, because text has such a defined outline. But well, maybe if you're not dyslexic, but well, that's weird though, isn't it? Like you can look at like the grill on this microphone, and like it doesn't turn into D's and C's, right? Like
no.
So why does text go weird?
Text doesn't.
Or is it the meaning that you're trying to impart on it?
Yeah, it's the meaning. It's recognizing patterns.
Right. So you can look at the shapes.
Yeah.
And they are a very distinct focus of it's not like I don't know. I'm not imagining it physically warps like if you're looking at a sea, like if you're looking at
it doesn't move around. They don't flip each other. It's literally just pattern recognition because you just don't have time when you're looking at things. Like one of the main things that they do, I hate it because it feels infantilization, is sound it out, do like each syllable, each letter, like the D, A, D, D.
Right, but that's what.
Whereas
it's the intentionality, though, right? Like, yeah. So dyslexic people, they're just lazy. That's what's going. Because it's not the. But yeah. No.
Yeah, no, actually, it's your brain just going. That's a pattern there. But
of course, well, I guess technically it would be laziness, like you've said before. But it's like, yeah, but my lazy is doing 10 times the effort of your lazy.
Yeah.
So it's like, who wouldn't be lazy?
Yeah.
It's like, why wouldn't you be lazy in that circumstance, right? It's like, but yeah. So I think the Assassin's Apprentice type stories, the Ranger's Apprentice type stories.
I don't actually think he had that.
No, but I think instead of making you hyper alert, it could actually just be look outside yourself and focus on it. Like actually, like when you look at a forest, see a tree. This is something that's weird that's been happening to me. I'm walking, trees, forests I've seen never before, and new trees are appearing. And I don't mean like they're growing something. It's like, oh, no, now I reckon... in like old JRPGs where you meet a new character and they're just like this outline, you can't see their name or their face, it's just a question mark or something. Yeah. And then it's like, it reveals them and it shows their face and their name.
Yeah.
The trees are doing that to me, where it's like, trees are just all this like background characters, right? But then suddenly I'm like, oh, this is the tree with the corkscrew spile in it. And this is the tree that leans like this. And this is the tree that, like, because I'm actually looking at them, right? It's like... I'm actually seeing the individual character, like each tree is its own. I'm seeing the trees for the forest.
You're going to next start pondering what it's like to be a tree, and then going broom and taking your bride-to-be through a forest because they think it's really pretty, and she's going, what on earth is wrong with this nerd talking about languages and trees?
But the point being that the main point is that it's better to be relaxed and have high spikes of stress even though that you're not prepared for them. Because what you're saying, when you're tense and you're stressed, and you're like, oh no. What you're doing is you're basically saying, I can't afford to feel that way again because that anger or whatever was so bad the first time. But it's like, no. You're strong enough. You can feel that pain again. And if you think you're strong enough and if you trust enough to relax, you're going to have your heart broken. You're going to be betrayed. Like, if you trust, you're going to have your heart broken. You're going to be betrayed. You're going to have a loud noise honk in your ear when you're not ready for it.
Yeah.
But every moment that isn't that betrayal will be so much better. Like, relationships, if you have that trust, they can be a lot better. Because you're not, like, constantly, I don't know, I want to say, like, you're not holding everything back, but I think there is honesty is important, right? But I don't think everyone needs to know about your scat fetish. Is that where I'm going with this? I don't know. It's like this sort of...
Yeah.
But it's different than that, because that might be important information to some people. But it's more like, you don't need to talk about... Okay, if there's a person who is deathly afraid of bears, right?
Yeah.
Your authentic self that is full of trust does not need to keep bringing over your pet bear to their house or something. Like, I don't know. Maybe something like that.
You can say what should be said instead of saying...
Everything you want to say, maybe?
Well, no, it's that you can say what
isn't it
should be said in like the honesty versus like being withdrawn, like just being open to it. You can say what should be said. That doesn't mean saying everything.
Yeah.
You can say what should be said instead of what you think you should say.
Because I think a lot of time...
Yeah, that's it. You can say what should be said instead of what you think you should say.
You know when you get angry and you just say something to hurt someone else?
Yeah.
Like, it's not actually useful information. You're just saying it because you know it'll hurt them, right?
Yeah.
Or because it's like a petty dig at them. It's like, you don't need to say that.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, I'm being honest. It's like, are you though? Or are you just trying to hurt someone?
Yeah.
Yeah. And is there a case where you want to hurt someone?
If they vandalize art in a museum or artifact.
Yeah. Well, I think there's times when you want to
punish someone.
Yeah, but that's the hurting someone is more like, I want to hurt you and still maintain our relationship. It's like, no, if you decide to be a judge, like, the prisoner should not love the judge. I think. But a parent can spank their child, right? So what is that? But the parent isn't doing it out of anger.
No.
The parent is doing it to teach a lesson. It never hit in anger, right? That's the thing with this. Yeah.
Never strike in anger.
Just, but don't not strike necessarily.
Yeah.
But then because we talked anger as a tool, not as the reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or was it the other way around? Anger is the reason to wield the tool? I can't remember. One of them, they're mutually exclusive, and it's very important you get it right.
Yeah. Wield anger, don't let wield you. That's an old one from a lot of books.
Yeah. But it was last episode, I think we talked about it, where...
That was like a month ago.
Yeah, but it was, yeah. Wow, this has been 3 hours.
3 hours, 20 minutes.
Yeah, so I guess we'd probably wrap it there.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Ciao. Ciao.
Oh, sorry. You're saying chow made me think about, for some reason you splurted out dog chow. And that made me think of Pitbull. And that made me think of early 2000s music. When we were going to the Czech Republic, we got a taxi to go in. And the radio was playing music from my childhood, which was amazing because it's like all like 2007 music to 2013 sort of. And so it's like, it didn't play. They had Gunther's song.
Ding Ding Dong?
Yeah, so Ding Ding Dong was playing in a taxi, and this is just their radio. And I fell in love with the taste of music that the actual Czech people had.
Just the old European music?
Well, it's just like old techno that was popular everywhere else.
Was Eurovision... It was over, I guess, by the time you were there, but were they still sort of...
It was going on sort of while we were there, but we got to Amsterdam after it was over.
Because I think it was a good year, personally. I liked a lot of the songs. Normally I don't like most of Eurovision, but this year I thought there was quite a few good ones.
Well, I think the greatest one, though...
It's Finland.
Is, the Epic Sex Guy.
No. Oh, sorry, this year I mean, it's Finland.
Oh, sorry, no, the greatest Eurovision ever is the one that produced Epic Sex Guy.
What's your actual favorite Eurovision song?
It is that one.
Oh, really?
I like the song besides the meme. Like, I actually think it's a good song. Like, the sax part's fun, but the whole song is just fun. I like it.
My favorite's Satellite by I think I've mentioned that before, but yeah, by Lena, the Germany.
Yeah. It's just such a fun song, that Epic Sax Guy song.
Yeah, it's a good song.
It's got a lot going for it.
Fairy Tale, I like Alexander Rybak, but it's actually one of my least favorite songs by him. And I really love, well, ABBA, of course. ABBA's always great. But then there's also that weird one. It's like the sort of Celtic-y Midnight Garden or whatever it's called. That one's quite good. But yeah, this year, a lot of good ones. Very, very impressive singers. France, he was singing his song. He's doing all this stuff. And the camera work in this year was ridiculously good. Like, the cameraman was basically an actor in it, right? Yeah. And so it was like watching an edited thing, but it was all live, the camera work. It was crazy good. But the French guy, it's just him and the cameraman on the stage. And, like, the cameraman, he walks over to the cameraman, he touches the camera and spins the cameraman around. Cameraman spins around and his camera's down. And then the French guy, while he's singing, lifts the camera up like it was a chin and looks the camera straight in the eyes. And then he moves back and it cuts to a side camera. And he has the microphone there. Yeah. And you see he puts it on the stand. He turns the microphone off. He walks back like 15 feet away from it. And then he's just like, whoa, and he fills the stadium with his voice. And it's just like showing off. Like, it's amazing. It's like, whoa. And the guy that won, there was a bit of controversy because he was wearing a dress while doing it. But he's like an athlete. Like, this is the difference, I think, between, like, he goes by they, them, or whatever. Yeah. Like, he does the whole gender neutral thing. But I think the difference between him and a lot of the gender neutral types, he's like this fit dude. Yeah. And he's an amazing singer, and he's doing this impressive dance routine while he's singing. He's not out of breath at all, and he's doing all these amazing things. And it's like, this is just a rock star, right? Like, this is just David Bowie wearing the women's, like, he goes by the they, them pronouns, and he's wearing the pink skirt, but it's like, no, this is just a rock star. Yeah. Because he has embodied the epitome of male and female. Like, that is the holy, what's that alchemical symbol called? Anyways, that's the holy union of male and female, basically, right? It's not the I have rejected everything and it's not abnegation of self. I've rejected everything. It's I am the best of both worlds. Look at me.
Good at inventing words that are actually real.
Yeah, but
and their meaning is the same.
Yeah, but I think to say this is horrible and ridiculous is basically exactly the same as the people in the 80s being like, they're demonic, those rock stars and stuff. And I think the pronouns are a bit too far, like, but it's like, if that's your stage thing, whatever, like, go for it. Like,
some guy had the artist formerly known as Prince, so
I'm not going to use the pronouns, but it's like,
I'm not going to pronounce Prince's weird symbol.
And even if I don't like the dress and the pronouns and everything, it's like, I don't want to be the old fogey being like, but now if you're like Kim Petras or Sam Smith, both who were, Sam Smith especially, an amazing singer, but Kim Petras a very fun pop star, Belgian pop star, I think. And then they do their Unholy, and they're like, oh yeah, I'm non-binary and I'm trans, and they're like, okay, you're just a cool trans and you're a cool non-binary, but Sam Smith's body just falls apart and he's like this fat slob now, and Kim Petras she's just like, oh, I'm trans, but I'm just a normal pop star, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. But now she's doing like this, oh, I'm seducing people and I'm evil, and that's, it's like, okay, so you're just demons.
Yeah. Your demons embodying sin.
Yeah, and it's look where it's led you. You look sickly, you look fat, you've got these lights on you. Whereas this dude, the winner of Eurovision, sure, he's got this different ideology, but it's working for him. Yeah, he's a fit dude. He's a great singer. It's like, okay, I don't agree with it, but it works, so it's obviously not incorrect. Yeah. If 10 years from now he's a fat slob, then we'll look at it again. But for now, he's a rock star. Yeah. That's my opinion. Goodbye. Thank you for listening to my
Yes. TEDx Talk 2.
To my Eurovision talk.
Yeah. TEDx Talk 2.
Yeah. Why TEDx Talk 2?
Because there's TED Talk 2 and there's TEDx.
Oh.
And both have less attendance than TED Talks. Ah. And so combining them makes it...
That's twice as many.
A level lower.
Yeah. No, I think Eurovision... Yeah, it was good. It was a good year. Anyways. Okay. Bye.